Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Kermitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week, we ventured back to the Sesame Street for probably like the 10th time, 11th time we've done one of these?
Oh, yeah, because did we do like a couple episodes where we did like a huge batch of multiple seasons or what?
Yeah, Sam, looking back at how we talked about Sesame Street, the first two Sesame Street episodes we did were very different from what we've done now. So the first one was episode 7 of this podcast in May of 2021.
No, okay.
So that's when we talked about the beginnings of Sesame Street. We watched one of the pilots. We watched the pitch reel. We talked about just season 1 and what it was like at the very beginning of Sesame Street. In episode 47 of this podcast, in March of 2022, we did a Sesame Street's first 10 years and a walking tour of Sesame Street. So we talked about just a grab bag of things. Looking at that list, we watched 132 different things.
What? We did?
That's what the spreadsheet says.
Wow, we must have had a lot more free time back then.
Sam, I have to go back and listen to this episode to hear our tone, because I have a feeling this was a pivot point maybe in Kermitment's trajectory. We watched 10 full episodes of Sesame Street.
Do you even remember that at all?
I remember the idea, but put yourself in a world where I would ask you to watch at least 10 hours of content for one episode of this podcast.
It looks like maybe we took a week off beforehand to get prepared for
it. We better have. That's at least 2 to 3 weeks worth of work now.
And then we listened to those albums on the next.
That one was actually a mistake.
Yeah.
The Muppet albums,
bad.
I forgot how long albums were. And so I was like, what's the harm in listening to a dozen albums?
But you know what else is ballistic? We watched those 10 episodes and we only recorded an hour and 47-minute long episode.
Yeah.
What were we doing? What's gone wrong since then?
Maybe there's like something that happens where you overwhelm yourself with too much content to watch and you can't possibly talk about all of it, so you have to gloss over most of it.
We're sick because now we watch Muppet Babies and talk for 3 hours.
Yeah, we watch an hour and a half of Muppet Babies and talk for 3 hours versus watching over 10 hours of Sesame Street and talking for an hour and a half.
Bottom of this, we got to figure out what's going wrong.
I think Fraggle Rock, honestly, if I'm looking back, I think Fraggle Rock broke us.
Oh, it was the text was too rich.
Correct. The way we
that makes sense.
The way we dove into Fraggle Rock was a little deeper than we dove into the Muppet Show when we were doing those episodes. And so I think the more we got into some deep content, we got more comfortable talking longer. And now it seems like we can't do a podcast less than 2.5 hours.
I mean, in retrospect, the Muppet Show didn't have that much to talk about. It informed things in the future more than it was something to talk about at the time.
But I wonder if modern day Sam and Matt went back and tried to do a Muppet Show episode, if it would take us 3 hours.
I would just disappear. I'd fake my own death were we to have to go back and do all that over again.
Well, thankfully that is not the case. We are moving right along very slowly through the Kermitment chronological order here. And we've reached another autumn, which means it's time for another season of Sesame Street. And because it's the fall of 1988, that must mean we're on season 20 of Sesame Street. But yeah, we should skip right ahead because, we got a lot to talk about today. So Sam, What did we watch this week?
Hey, Matt, we watched a whole lot of stuff from Sesame Street Season 20, which aired from November 1988 to May 1989. The 90s are knocking on our door, and you can really start to, like you mentioned, feel it. The 90s are seeping in. First, we listened to one of Joe Raposo's last songs, Let's Make a Dream, written in 1988, but not released until it was used on a 1993 Sesame Street album called We're All Earthlings. So he died?
Yes.
We talked about this, I think, already.
We've at least mentioned that he passes away soon, because I think in our last episode we referenced that Jim in his Red Book wrote Last Time with Joe Raposo.
Oh, right. And we were
And
like, did he
so,
go back and write that in later or what?
right, because Joe passes away in February of 1989. So it would have
Okay.
been during this season, but after Jim wrote that in his journal. So we were speculating that maybe he went back and added that detail in. But yes, Joe Raposo does die on February 5th, 1989, of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, when he is only 51 years old.
Damn. Yeah, I was going to say, I bet he couldn't have been that old. Then we saw a hilariously brief clip from the November 14th episode of The Today Show, and it features Big Bird gifting Willard Scott a bird Katir hat, which is kind of like a musketeer hat, except it's Big Bird's head instead of Mickey's ears. And it's 5 seconds long, I think, maybe even less than that. Then we watched a segment from the season premiere of season 20 of Sesame Street, air date November 14th. Luis and Maria are packing to go on their honeymoon, and Snuffy and Big Bird are hanging out and wanting to know why they can't also go with them. The answer is because Luis and Maria want to be alone together, which is a concept that sounds stupid to Big Bird and Snuffy, until a song helps them realize that they also like to be alone together, though it is not for the same reason that Luis and Maria want to be alone together, which is because they wanted to have sex.
Yeah, let's make it very clear. It's different reasons.
There's a lot of like looking at the camera like, hey guys, come on.
I was kind of shocked at the surprising amount of innuendo, both in this, but also when they have to start talking about where the babies come from.
Yes, I agree. And I had a big question watching this whole thing, which was, did children care about this? Or did they lean too far into the like soap opera-iness? Because there's definitely like a low stakes soap opera thing. Like there's complicated characters in these episodes. There's people who are like going through existential crises, and it just to me was like, does a 3-year-old care about this?
I think the goal is that you make them care by showing it to them.
Right. I guess that's true. Or show them something that later on in their life they'll be like, Sesame Street prepared me for this.
Right. It's sort of how we've talked about when we were younger. You know, Maria, Luis, and Bob were sort of real people to us. And
Right.
at least for me, finding out that they were actors not named those actual names aside from Bob,
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. They have to
Yeah.
be the people. Like, the idea that they were just actors playing roles didn't sit right with me when I first found that out.
I had the same realization and the same like unsettling feeling about it. But I do feel like if nowadays there was a subplot where 2 of the human characters on Sesame Street alluded to the fact that they were going to have sex, then maybe the whole country would flip out. Do you think that's true?
I think this would be addressed slightly differently today.
There wouldn't be a episode about them going on their honeymoon, I don't think.
I think you could reference it, but I don't know that they would lean in so hard on the kids really trying to come along and them having to be like, no.
And them looking at each other like, we gotta go have sex.
Yeah, like I think it would just be like, we're going on our honeymoon. Goodbye.
Bye. Yeah.
And they would not make as big of a deal about like, no, a honeymoon is where a man and wife need to be alone.
Yeah. Not a situation I feel like comes up often for children, but what do I know? Next, we watched a delightful little interview from CBS This Morning's November 15th episode featuring Bob and Oscar talking about 20 years of Sesame Street, all the changes they've seen on the show, and what it's like working together. Then we saw a segment from the November 22nd Sesame episode that featured a song called "I Think That It's Wonderful." Ernie, Bert, Harry Monster, Cookie Monster, and Prairie Rose sing about various things that they like as they get ready for bed. And this one is notable because, according to our notes at least, it's one of the last Sesame things that will feature most of the core Muppet performers and their primary characters all together.
As Sam's going through this, some of these notes and just the selection of things we chose to watch this week, we need to thank Shane Keating, who is a huge help to us on these Sesame Street episodes in particular, but also just in general on this commitment journey we're on. You might know Shane from Muppet Wiki things or Tough Pigs things or just general online Muppet fandom. He has done a great job of helping us curate the last couple Sesame Street episodes we've done because he has encyclopedic knowledge of old Sesame Street things. Thanks to the dozens and hundreds, maybe, of Sesame Street guides he has written for Muppet Wiki. And so we got to give a big thanks to him for helping us pick out the best things to watch.
He has done, I assume, what you're threatening that we will do, where we have to watch every Sesame Street episode.
I mean, potentially. I haven't asked, but it seems like maybe because he knows so much and is extremely helpful at adding in context like this to these clips of why is this random clip in here of Ernie and Cookie Monster? Well, it's notable because of these reasons.
It's a
So
historic clip.
yeah, which is something that we wouldn't know if we were just watching the seasons as we were going through. So thanks, Shane. We'll be doing this and bugging you every season for the rest of your life.
Yeah. How many seasons are left? 30 something. Right.
Yep, 36.
Cool. So great. Then we watched how many episodes how many seasons of The Simpsons are there?
More than that. I was actually
That's-
just thinking about that, Sam.
that's
It's
crazy.
weird that you brought that up because I was thinking back to how old those voice actors were when they first started The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And the answer may shock you.
Is younger than we are now, I assume, right?
Pretty much all of them were younger than we are now, except for Julie Kavner, who was 39.
Oh, okay.
But
Wow.
Yeardley Smith and Hank Azaria were 25 when they started
Holy
doing The
cow.
Simpsons.
They didn't know what they were in for. They're here forever.
Yeah.
They have that poster in front of them that Homer has. You know, the "Don't forget you're here forever" poster.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they go in. They have that hanging in the booth.
Except they're making millions of dollars.
Hey, Homer was doing all right. They had a nice house. Then we watched a clip from the 1988 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. There's a walk around Bert and Ernie, and they're dancing while the Sesame Street humans sing from a big, weird vehicle that looks like the Pigs in Space spaceship, plus a disco ball for some reason. Then a big bird balloon floats by, and Willard Scott loses his shit completely over how cool the balloon is. What is this car that they're in? Why are they in that?
I'm thinking maybe there was like a theme to the parade that year.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I don't know what that's supposed to be. It's a weird
Yeah.
blimp car.
It seems like it's some kind of famous car that we should know, but
Yeah.
not connected to Sesame Street. But that would be
Right.
like, wow, it's the famous car.
Yeah, like I was in my head, I was like, is that like the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang thing? It's not. But it's
Right.
a shiny silver blimp car thing that
Yeah.
I don't recognize.
Then we watched a clip from the January 18th episode where Billy Joel and Marley Matlin confessed Grouch groupies bring Oscar one of Billy's old worn out pianos. Then Billy sings Oscar a personalized version of Just the Way You Are as Marley Matlin hugs and kisses Oscar the Grouch. I think I had a dream like this once.
This does feel like it's straight from Sam's head.
Yeah, I had to look up why Billy Joel and Marley Matlin were hanging out with each other, and there's not a reason. They just
I was going
are.
to say, like, were they dating or something at the time?
That's what I figured, but no. I mean, it
Hmm.
didn't come up at least. But it certainly is presented as if they have some kind of pre-existing relationship.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they were just looking for an excuse to have some celebrities on Sesame Street, and those two
Right.
schedules happened to line up, and they figured something out. But I hadn't even thought about that, like if there was a reason they were hanging out. But now I like to imagine they're friends.
Marley Matlin was busy around this time. I feel like she looms very large over my young life, right?
Hmm.
She was like everywhere.
Definitely, I feel like she popped up in every show in the 90s.
Yeah.
I know her best from West Wing, where she plays Joey Lucas.
Oh, yeah, right.
But yeah, she was also just in everything. If you were watching TV in the 90s, Marley Matlin would show up in one episode.
And still that is still kind of the case. Next, we saw a skit from the January 19th episode of Sesame Street, which featured a posthumously released song from Joe Raposo called Air, which is about air, and which also features Jim last time playing bizarre Menomina doppelganger Bip Bipadada, whose arms are so short. Why are his arms
Yeah.
got to be so short?
Maybe like they were worried about how much he was looking like Menomina, and they're like, how do
Yeah,
we change
they're
this
like,
guy a little bit?
I know. Let's cut
Make
his
his
hands
arms
off.
useless.
I do think Bipadada is a better name than Menomina, personally.
Oh, absolutely. It's more of a name than just like
Sure.
being known for the song you
The
sing.
skit that you were in. Yeah. Next up, we watched a street scene from the January 2nd episode in which Hiroshi, a reoccurring character from season 20, played by Getty Watanabe, is seemingly being shaken down by Oscar for rent money. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's happening, right?
Yeah, I checked out
He's
the other parts of the episode, and basically, Oscar is going to move the sloppy jalopy out to the street and park it out there now. And so his garage is
Oh.
open, and so Hiroshi wants to use the garage as an art studio. Oscar says you can do so, but you have to pay me one bag of trash a week, and it's due today.
Wow. So he's a bad landlord.
Oh, I mean, obviously, are you surprised?
That's no, I guess I'm not. I mean, that just seems low even for him, I guess.
He learned from Donald Grump in that one episode
Yeah,
where
right.
he was shaking
Right.
people down for bags of trash.
Oh yeah, he was like, "Hey, that guy sucked, but that was a great idea."
He was a good grouch, though.
Yeah, one of the best. So he's shaking him down for rent money in the form of trash, as Matt just mentioned. But Hiroshi is an artist, and to pay Oscar, he creates a sculpture of him made of trash, which Oscar and everyone else loves. Thus, I guess buying himself another month of rent. I was kind of surprised to see Getty Watanabe, and then to read that he was a recurring character in the show for like 2 years.
Well, we saw him briefly in season 19. There was an
Mm.
episode we watched a clip of where he pops up as like a friend of Bob's.
Oh, right, right,
But that was, I don't know if it was like a test or if they were like, hey, you're great. Do you want to come back?
right.
But yeah, he did. He came back as a recurring guest star.
Kind of a big star.
Yeah, I mean, at this time, especially, I think he had done at least 16 candles at this point.
Right.
But I think he would go on after this to do UHF and Gung Ho and things. So Gung Ho was before this. So yeah, he was definitely well
A
known.
known face.
Yeah.
Next, we watch street scenes from the February 2nd episode. Big Bird is excited to go to the park with Maria, but she shows up and tells Big Bird that she's got too much going on today to go to the park. Namely, she has to fix a toaster and make a phone call. So Big Bird is feeling very dejected and angry, and Maria suggests that he write a story about how he feels. She leaves, and Big Bird writes a story which stars Bluebird, a superhero bird who hates anyone who breaks their promises. Bluebird fights a villain called the Toaster Fixer Phone Caller, who was played in Big Bird's dream sequence by Maria. Later on, Maria comes back with Luis to share some big news with Big Bird. She couldn't go to the park because she just found out that she's pregnant. Big Bird is excited and immediately runs out into the street to tell everyone. Later that night, Luis and Maria read Big Bird a book before bedtime, and Big Bird acts like a baby so that they can practice being parents. Next, we watched a skit from that same February 2nd episode starring Forgetful Jones and Kermit. Forgetful is in the musical Oklahoma, which is being directed by Kermit, but he can't remember which letter Oklahoma starts with, and Kermit gets very pissed. Then we watched The Word Is No, a song from the February 8th episode about the word no. We watched a skit from February 20th starring the Count and Countess who watched their favorite show, 20 something, the title of which contains a vagueness that deeply bothers the Count. Then a Sherlock Hemlock skit from March 21st, where he and his dog Watson try to solve the mystery of the missing cat. We saw Grover try to think up rhyming words with the help of a fox and an ox on March 14th. And then we watched street scenes of Oscar getting a puppy on March 21st. The puppy is a Groucher Spaniel named Preposterous, who Oscar swears will not bark all night or tear things up or cause any kind of mayhem. He gets the dog, and the dog turns out to just be like depressed, basically, completely uninterested in everything, kind of just yawns all the time and eats food. But it's complete, like, refusal to engage with anyone causes everybody who interacts with Preposterous to get very, very mad and to start yelling, which ultimately causes the kind of chaos and discord that a grouch craves. On March 23rd, the Amazing Munford tries to make Gladys the cow disappear. On March 28th, Big Bird comes up with a new Bluebird story in which Bluebird fights the sock snatcher, a pervert who steals socks out of washing machines.
I would
Also
have
on
bet
March
$1,000 that you would have used the word pervert when you just described the sock snatcher.
That dude, I mean, I wrote it first, and then he showed up, and I was like, yes, this man is a
I wrote
pervert.
I wrote in my notes, ask Sam what he thinks of the sock snatcher, and I would have been willing to bet money that you would have used the word pervert.
They didn't have to. I mean, they could have made him a puppet. They didn't have to make him look so creepy, you know?
I got a lot of thoughts on the Bluebird segments.
Yeah, I was kind of warming up to him a little bit in the second one. The first one, I was like, this is weird. And then the second one, I was like,
we are
okay.
diametrically opposed on this one, so
okay,
we'll
I
get into
like
that.
this guy.
The
so
pervert
also
reminder.
on March 28th, also, Ernie tries to count cookies with the help of Cookie Monster, a foolish endeavor indeed. And Ernie also teaches us the concept of zero, and this is also the last Ernie Cookie Monster skit we'll ever see.
The last Jim Frank Ernie Cookie Monster scene. I am sure they have done more since.
Yes, the only original Ernie Cookie Monster skit. On April 4th, Placido Flamingo sings the Itsy Bitsy Spider in opera form, starring Bob in a really crazy spider costume. On April 24th, Kermit's just trying to read a book, but the Yip Yip aliens, the Twiddlebugs, and a gang of cool greaser kids are making too much noise, so he goes back to his Muppet Baby roots and redirects their loud energy, leading them all in a doo-wop song about working together. Then on April 24th, a kid sings a song called Sure is Hot, using Spanish to impress a new Spanish-speaking girl who just moved in down the street. Next, we watched. This is a whole this is a whole batch of weird pairings because we watched Elmo play the Guy Smiley game show Beat the Time on March 5th, 1989. Elmo is given 1 minute to find 3 things that start with the sound like snake.
SN.
Yeah, that start with the letters SN and the sound sn. So he runs off, he finds some snacks, he finds one of Telly's sneakers with Telly still in it, and he finds Snuffy, who sort of smashes up the set. Interesting to see Snuffy not in a street scene, I thought. Doesn't happen that often, does it?
I mean, they
At
make a
least that
big
we
deal
see.
out of it, too. He really just almost destroys that set trying to fit in there and has never looked larger than he does in that set.
He really, the Guy Smiley built his set only for Muppets to be in, basically. Then we saw a skit from May 8th with another interesting pairing, Kermit and Oscar. Oscar has a work order from the Grouch Department of Transportation telling him to install a bus stop in Kermit's living room. Kermit objects, saying that it's a terrible place for a bus stop because no one will ever find it and no bus would want to drive through his living room. Kermit is wrong on both counts and his life and house are ruined. Finally, we watched the season finale of season 20, which aired on May 12th, 1989. Maria goes into labor in the middle of the night, and Oscar gives her and Luis a ride to the hospital. When Luis asks Oscar to call Hoopers from the hospital to give everyone an update, Oscar starts to wonder if he's being too nice and losing his touch as a grouch. He slinks back to Sesame Street to hide in his trash can and stew over how bad a grouch he is, while the rest of the cast tries to force him to tell them how Maria and the baby are doing. Oscar refuses, so eventually the whole gang just heads over to the hospital to see for themselves, and they find out that Maria had her baby. It's a girl named Gabrielle. Is that right? Gabriella. And then later that night, Oscar is still worried that he's a bad grouch, but that doesn't stop him from calling his best buddy Maria to check in on how she and the baby are doing. And that's season 20 of Sesame Street.
It was so sweet.
It was really sweet. That was one of the things where I was like, this is too much of a real story for a baby show.
I could not disagree more. I think that's exactly what babies need to be watching.
I guess empathy. Even if you're feeling crabby, you still have to be friends.
Well, getting into some overall thoughts here. One, I still just find myself sitting and enjoying and thinking, what a good show.
It is
whenever we do
show.
Sesame episodes.
Yeah. I've watched the modern Sesame Street, and I do not get that same, no offense to anyone, do not get that same feeling from it, where it's like, I think, I don't know if babies care about there being this storyline running through it, but if I was a grown-up and I had to watch Sesame Street, I know I would be emotionally invested in the story of Luis and Maria, for sure.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, I think there is something about kids watching that is helpful for them to, understand adult relationships and to empathize with things. that it doesn't feel like they're dumbing it down
Yeah.
in ways that, again, sorry to modern day
Mm.
Sesame Street, but I feel like it can sometimes feel like it's rushing through anything that could slow things down or be too
Right.
emotionally real. And it feels like they only get into that stuff when they're doing like a special during COVID or something. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, okay, this doesn't feel out of place compared to old Sesame Street, but compared to modern HBO Sesame Street, this does feel weird.
Yeah. Another like in modern times, we're just going to be seeing Elmo and Abby Cadabby being goofy or whatever.
Yeah, and rarely even like on screen at the same times, and just it's kind of odd how different Sesame Street is. And I don't know when that switch occurred, if it was a
Mm-hmm.
sudden switch, if it was a subtle evolution that we'll notice as we get into future seasons. But I'm very curious to explore that a bit more.
Yeah, and the thing I'm curious about also is like if they did some kind of research or like somewhere along the way
Hmm.
they were like these storylines aren't really like working out, or this isn't helping
Yeah.
anything, or like we've gone too far down this path. And maybe I'm totally talking out of my ass and they do
Hmm.
still do stuff like this. But I
That's
what
the
I've
other
seen
thing is
they
we
don't, but I don't know.
yeah, I've watched a couple of like full episodes of more recent seasons of Sesame Street, and again, you could say it's because I'm not a kid that I'm not getting much out of them, but I'm
Right.
also not a kid when I'm going back and revisiting these 80s
Yeah.
episodes as well. And I am getting
Yeah.
something out of them. And it's not even nostalgia because I don't have memories of most of these sketches.
No.
It is just feels like there's more there under the surface that you can connect with. They're a bit slower. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think honestly, part of it is that I think Sesame Street has been maybe a bit too influenced by YouTube.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say
Um,
we're not kids when we watch this old stuff, but this old stuff is geared towards how our brains worked when we were
right.
kids, which I'm sure carries over into how we are now.
Yeah. There's a lot more. Like, obviously, there's talking to the camera on Old Sesame Street, but I feel like nowadays
Yeah.
almost everything is presented to camera. And like, hey, come
Right.
along with me. Let's go do this thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to, hey, viewer, guess what's happening in our lives on Sesame Street today? Now you're just going to watch it happen. And we're not really going to talk to you for the rest of this episode, but you're just going to watch our
Mm.
lives.
That's something that like I see a lot of people talk about like media that you can see yourself in kind of stuff. And I feel
Hmm.
like that is not necessarily something, or like yeah, like the talking to the camera, inviting you into it, like being part of the thing that you're watching. I feel like that's not like a thing that I grew up thinking about or caring about, or like, hey, why do I have to watch other people do this thing? But I do think maybe that is like how modern children do think, or they're like, why is the people on the screen ignoring me? They're being so rude.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I am terrified to learn as I will soon have a child
Yeah.
who, in a few years, will start to consume some media
Right.
and start to have tastes in these kinds of things. And I'm not terrified about what she'll enjoy. I'm more terrified about the realization of how things have changed. Like, what if I put on an old episode like this in a few years and she's like, Dad, this sucks. This is boring. I hate this.
Yeah, she's gonna want to watch the like the inevitable Charlie Kirk
Oh,
children's
Jesus.
television show.
No. Wow. I hate that idea even more. Well, this season of Sesame Street aired from November 14th, 1988 to May 12th of 1989. So we are covering a big, chunk of time here. But like we often do with Sesame Street, that doesn't mean we're jumping ahead to 1989. We do have a couple episodes of 88 to wrap up before we get into the year of 1989. And yeah, this season is focused on pregnancy and birth and what it means for a baby to be coming into your life or into your Sesame Street. And yeah, just trying to understand and explain to kids what that's all about because they, are maybe the age where they're getting a younger sibling and are freaking out about that.
Right.
But the two sadder notes one, we already mentioned this is the last season for Joe Raposo. who was the music director on Sesame Street, wrote a lot of the best songs that you've heard on Sesame Street over the years, and just worked really, really well with the Muppets.
Did he write the theme song also?
Yeah, he wrote the theme song. He wrote Being Green. He wrote C is for Cookie.
Whoa.
He wrote Sing a
He wrote
Song, you know.
Being Green has transcended Sesame Street at this point.
Well, and Joe Raposo, for those that listen to Muppetturgy as well as Kermitment, will know they reference Joe Raposo quite a bit because they often refer to Frank Sinatra as a Joe Raposo stan, because Frank Sinatra recorded a ton of Joe Raposo's songs through the years, including Being Green. There is a Frank Sinatra cover of that.
Oh, wow.
But this is also the last season for Northern Calloway, who played David on Sesame Street. He played David since 1971 on the series. And the official reason given in the press for Northern leaving the show was that he had retired for medical reasons. But as we've talked about on this show a few times, some of Northern Calloway's mental health struggles and his on and offset behavior before that got him into trouble, which is, saying it lightly in some ways. For one, he was charged with aggravated assault against a woman in Nashville in 1980. And according to the Book Street Gang, this was more of a forced retirement.
In 1980, though? So this has been going on for a long time.
Yeah, so that was in 1980 when he had some sort of mental health episode. He ended up being declared innocent by reason of temporary insanity. But yes, Sesame Street took him back in, and I think we're trying to help him. And we've talked in the past about some of the on-set struggles where he was forgetting lines, or they'd have to film like one line at a time. I think at one point the Book Street Gang referred to him as useless on set. But yeah, I think it's just very interesting to think about, a children's performer going through that nowadays, I think would be treated quite differently.
Right.
And, that's not necessarily a judgment call. That's just a curious thing that
Yeah.
was very different in
It'd
1980.
certainly be amplified more, I feel like.
Yeah, and there was plenty of news articles that I've read about this happening, of this attack that happened in 1980. So it was not covered up. Like, people knew this happened. But there was also the story of him sort of stalking the girl who played Gina by showing up at her high school. And so there was other offset issues. But the Book Street Gang says that it ultimately fell to executive producer Dulcie Singer to dismiss Calloway. And she said, 2 of us met Northern at a restaurant because our bosses had suggested that we meet in a public place. Northern actually took it well, thanking me for all the opportunities he had. And it says Dulcie Singer was relieved that Calloway did not cause a scene. But shortly after Northern Calloway was removed from Sesame Street, he was permanently placed into a mental institution called Stony Lodge Hospital in New York, where he was receiving treatment for bipolar disorder. And then I think we've also talked about this maybe in the past, but on January 9th, 1990, there was an altercation between him and a staff physician. He was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead at the age of 41. The coroner's report listed Calloway's official cause of death as exhaustive psychosis, which is now more commonly called excited delirium syndrome, which, if you have not heard it before, is often retrospectively assigned to those who die under restraint in custody, is often used as an excuse when something more horrific has happened. It is used in a high number of instances of police brutality, essentially. Excited delirium was also cited by the defense in the George Floyd murder trial in 2020. Okay. So excited delirium is, I think,
just one of the horrible innuendo, basically.
Right. It's a thing when I think it's the excuse they use with tasers when people die from being tased. They're like, oh, well, they didn't die because we tased them and caused a heart attack. They died from excited delirium syndrome, right. Which is when they often
already freaking out, and then
right. It's often the sort of excuse of, I had to do this horrible thing or kill this person because they had super strength and the adrenaline, they were just going to kill me or whatever, even though they couldn't breathe or were on the ground. This had to happen. And so there's states where they ban this as a cause of death. I know there's a lot of organizations out there who are trying to come out against excited delirium syndrome as an excuse because of how many times it has been found to just not really be a thing.
That's awful.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Northern Calloway had a lot of struggles in his life. And yeah, I'm glad we got to see his time on Sesame Street. I think David was a very interesting character. And especially in those earlier seasons where he got to have sort of a relationship with Maria. I think it's interesting also more in retrospect because we get to see that switch happen
Right.
as
And
they're
him
sort of,
him kind of reference it too.
yeah, which I think we also talked about where the Street Gang book mentions that that was not a thing he took well, was the relationship between Luis and Maria developing, and especially weird to then add it into the wedding scene where he's like, wow, I remember that when that could have been me.
Yeah.
So I think there's a mixture of compassion with also some maybe accidental cruelty at moments.
From the Sesame Street organization
Yeah.
keeping him around maybe when it would be more healthy for him to not be part of it anymore, or
Yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to speak on because,
yeah.
we're not there. It's so much later and there's only so much information about this. Street Gang, the book, goes more into this. It seems like he did not have doctors that were looking out for him
Mhm.
in the best way. The way Dulcie Singer talks about it is that the Sesame Street team tried to help more, and doctors sort of were not letting them help as much as they would like to. So it's a very big, complicated situation. But
Yeah.
obviously, I think we had to talk about it because he's been such a big part of the seasons we've talked about, and this will be the last time we'll see him on Sesame Street.
And they say that it doesn't seem like maybe he gets a send-off episode. They just say
No,
he
this was his
moved.
last episode, the one
Okay.
where Maria has the baby.
So the next season, he's just not there anymore.
They say he moved to Florida to take care of his grandmother.
Okay.
But yeah, there are some things in season 20 that we did not see or talk about this time. So Maria and Luis do get to go on their honeymoon. They go camping in the Adirondack Mountains for their honeymoon.
And we see
there's
them there.
yeah, there's a few
Huh.
episodes where they are out camping in the woods. I think it seemed, from what I read, it seems like they don't have a good time.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
But maybe possibly conceive a child.
Yeah. Also in season 20, Luis and Maria move in together after they come back from their honeymoon.
Oh, they didn't take care of that before they got married.
They did not.
They had a whirlwind romance, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I think it's also just sort of, it was a little bit more common back then. And I think
Yeah.
for a children's show, they probably maybe insisted on not having them live together
Sure.
before marriage.
And they also live like right across the street from each
Yeah.
other, I assume.
Yeah. Big Bird helps Luis and Maria prepare for their baby. There's some very sweet scenes that I went and watched where he gives Maria a mom sign to wear around her neck so the baby will recognize
Oh,
her.
that's good. Yeah. I love Big Bird. I'm so warmed up to Big Bird now. There was times when he was bothered me so deeply, but is he the second best Muppet in our estimation? Was that what we said?
Is that where we landed?
Was it between him and Rolf? I think it was.
I think that does sound right to me. But yeah, if you're curious to see more of this pregnancy baby storyline, which obviously I was curious about.
Oh, yeah. Did you learn a lot of stuff from this?
Learn is maybe a strong word, but enjoy for sure, because Maria has a baby shower. There are lots of cute moments where Big Bird is just trying to be helpful and learn more about babies. And so he is definitely like the surrogate for the kids watching at home who don't
Right.
know about babies. They keep explaining things to Big Bird of how, they don't get into the details of how babies are made, but they talk a little bit about it. And they talk about, bringing the baby home from the hospital and all the things that they need to do. And so, yeah, it's very, very sweet. And Big Bird even prepares a list of things for them to do when they're going to the hospital, which is very helpful.
Do you need me to come over and pretend to be a baby so you guys can practice?
I'm going to say no, actually.
Okay. The offer stands. You don't have to answer right away.
Okay, well, I did. And I guess I'll think
I know,
about
but you don't
it.
have to.
Okay.
Ask Devin, okay?
All right.
Let her decide.
We'll do that.
What if she said, yeah, that would be great. What would you do?
I've been waiting for someone to ask to come over and pretend to be the baby.
It's traditional, Matt. No one's asked you if they can pretend to be a baby yet?
Not a single person.
That's so embarrassing.
I mean, the problem is, Sam, the things that I think I am least confident about at the moment are like swaddling and changing diapers.
You can swaddle me, but I will not let you change my diaper.
I appreciate that. I think swaddling you, you've got man strength, would be much harder than swaddling
Well, you'll
a
be really good
baby.
at it. You'll be great at it if you
I
do
got to
it.
build up those swaddling muscles.
I think it's really generous and nice of you to tell me that I have man strength. I think you'll be surprised.
I meant more in contrast to the baby strength that I'll be competing against when
I
I'm
am
trying to
roughly
swaddle a baby.
man-sized. I'm quite weak, though.
I trust that you would be able to put up a better fight to being swaddled than a baby
Yeah.
could.
I could give you a big punch in the beezer for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm more afraid of. Is like as those arms start flailing, you're gonna make contact once, and I'm just out cold.
I'd just take your glasses off your head and snap them in half. What do you
Yeah,
think about
see,
that?
babies can't do that.
Well, eventually they can.
I think at that point you're not changing their diapers anymore, though. Well, elsewhere in season 20, Elmo gets a library card.
Oh, yeah. Can he read? I mean, I guess you don't have to. Be
They
able to
got
read to
picture
get one.
books.
Yeah, that's true. Can he? You can't read to this day, I assume.
Probably not allowed to read.
He's not allowed. He can read. He just isn't. Yeah, he can't be seen reading, or else the illusion would be broken.
Yeah, he has to. If he's holding a book at all, he has to throw it away very quickly as soon as the camera's on him. There's also an episode that on Muppet Wiki is described as, I think, Elmo and his dinosaur, which I was
Oh.
like, that's kind of fascinating. Let's look into that. It's actually more interesting to us, I think, because Elmo is basically spending the whole episode trying to get Bob to help him blow up his inflatable Godzilla toy.
Oh, actual Godzilla?
Uh-huh.
Toho
Which they call
allowed
the
this?
dinosaur. So maybe they're trying to get around it.
Oh boy. When you do that kind of thing, you just hope Toho doesn't see it.
I'll find you the episode.
Oh, they're gonna get in trouble.
No, I don't know what
Wow.
you're talking about, Sam. That's Ziggy the
It's
dinosaur.
a dinosaur, of course. Ziggy.
But there's just a
What the
fantastic
heck?
image of once Bob has it fully blown up, this like 5-foot tall inflatable Godzilla
Yeah,
of
that
Bob,
thing,
Elmo, and Godzilla just standing there together.
that thing rules. That's such a
Mhm.
big Godzilla.
It's actually quite a small Godzilla in the scale of Godzillas.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Matt. You're right.
And the last thing I had noted here is that during season 20, there's like a whole episode where it's just about Jamie Lee Curtis coming to visit Sesame Street.
Oh, and it is Jamie Lee Curtis, and they say,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, she's just a friend hanging out, like Mr. Rogers did that one time.
What movie of hers is appropriate for children to know about?
I'd say this feels like Fish Called Wanda kind of era, which is maybe
Yeah.
not a kids movie. It didn't always stop them. They have plenty of
Sure.
stars on these days who are not in kid appropriate movies.
Oh, absolutely.
Has Jamie Lee Curtis ever been in a kids movie besides Freaky
Freaky
Friday?
Friday. Yeah, that's the only one I could think of too.
Yeah, this was right around Fish Called Wanda time, which again, not a kids movie.
No, Trading Places, Halloween. Not children shouldn't be anywhere near.
These are
any
not
of those
kids movies. Well, then getting into what we actually watched this week, Sam. We started off with Let's Make a Dream, which was written and sung by Joe Raposo. And yeah, this is just a sweet little encouraging song and a nice way for us to say goodbye to Joe Raposo.
Yeah, I think so too. He's such a distinctive voice as well.
I'm trying to think if I had a favorite Joe Raposo song out of, there's like Being Green and Sesame Street song. And I'm just like, these are all so great. But I think we both know what our actual favorite Joe Raposo song might be.
Is it I've Got a Bird on Me?
That's maybe a close second.
What is it?
I think Peanut Butter might be my favorite Joe Raposo song.
Peanut Butter was crazy. Yeah, some Joe Raposo songs come on and it's just like almost a fever dream. Like they're good, but you're also like, what?
What I imagine is like, I feel like you see this in old movies or cartoons where they're just like, they find a man with a piano in a room and they're like, we need 40 songs by the end of the day, Joe. And he's like,
and he's looking
all right.
around the room.
He sees his empty jar of peanut butter. He's like, all right, what's peanut butter all about? How do they make that?
He's on song 37. He's just poor. He's like totally drenched with sweat. He looks awful. He smoked several packs of cigarettes. He's like, I can't write a song about cigarettes. What else? I've eaten this whole jar of peanut butter. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to write the lines. A little salt, a little sugar makes the goo taste really good. Keep it pumping through the pipeline like a peanut butter pumper should.
And his boss comes in. He's like, Joe, you're a genius. You've done it again.
Now get me those other 40 songs, Joe.
Yeah, that was his first song.
It's like, oh, I worked for 3 years on Peanut Butter Pumper, getting that, rhythm just right. And you guys come in and say that's not good enough? What? He also did the theme songs for Three's Company and Shining Time Station.
What the hell?
Yeah.
He did the theme song for Three's Company?
Yeah.
That makes so much sense now that you say it.
Come and knock on my door. I've got peanut butter in a jar. No, Joe,
Joe?
stop with the peanut butter.
Joe. We broke Joe, everybody. It's not easy being peanut butter colored.
What's really funny is I don't know if there's a way to figure out whose office it was. But when we were watching the Street Gang documentary, there's a poster in the background of one of the offices that's like this amazing 70s design that just says peanut butter is love, spread some around today.
Oh, I've seen that poster before.
Yeah, and Devin liked it so much that we have one of those posters in our house. We ordered one online. And now I'm like, was that Joe Raposo's office?
Were they making fun of Joe? Like, great peanut butter song, idiot. And every year for his birthday, this person gives him another bullying peanut butter item.
Last things I'll mention about Joe Raposo. One, speaking of Three's Company, the singer of the Three's Company song, the guy voice, is the other Ray Charles, who we've talked about before, who would go on to do music for The Muppet Show.
Right.
Or had already done.
Or something.
Was going to do, yes.
Right.
I don't remember when Three's Company happened, but I think that's definitely before The Muppet Show.
Just amorphously in the 70s. 1977 is when Three's Company's premiered.
So yeah, same time. So he's doing both of those.
He was having a great year. He was finally like, now maybe no one will confuse me with the other Ray Charles anymore.
Maybe I'll be the prime Ray Charles.
The real Ray Charles at this point.
Well, sorry, Ray.
Poor deluded fool.
Yeah, that did not end up happening.
So you're just a confusing footnote at the end of the Muppet Show.
That's
Ray Charles
the most insulting thing I've ever heard.
I bet so many people see Ray Charles and just think, wow, Ray Charles worked on the Muppet Show. That's amazing.
Yeah. But referring to a human as a footnote.
There's a lot. Most people are footnote. You're lucky if you're a footnote as a human being, Matt.
We're not footnotes.
No. Well, maybe we'll be a footnote in Muppet Wiki someday.
Maybe someday. We'll see.
And we will have transcended into some kind of immortality that other human beings never get to enjoy.
Or some sort of Ouroboros where we eventually have to talk about ourselves.
Oh, yeah. God, that would be amazing. That's my goal.
And we will also at some point get to pay tribute to Joe Raposo because they will eventually put out a special called Sing, Sesame Street Remembers Joe Raposo and His Music, which coincidentally gets aired on May 16th, 1990, the day that Jim Henson dies. And I believe there is a little card that they added to it last minute to say that, like, in memory of Joe Raposo and Jim Henson. You
know what the worst thing that could happen to us is if we were the creators of a really successful Muppet project, of continuing television show that went on for a long time, because we the whole time would be like, oh no, we've been making this for 10 years. We're going to be talking for so much longer on our podcast.
Sam, it's so sweet that you think that if we were in a position where we were making a very successful long-running Muppet show for Disney, that we would still be doing this podcast.
Well, we'd have to get powerful enough that they couldn't tell us what to do.
Oh, no. I'm not saying they would tell us to stop. I'm saying we would choose to stop.
Oh, I'd keep going.
I think it would become less frequent of a podcast.
Sure. But
I don't think we, me who's about to have a kiddo on top of, in this future, I'm a successful Disney showrunner.
But when our careers dried up, we go back and be like, I can't believe we made so many episodes of this.
I mean, that would essentially be what a lot of people, not saying all of their careers are dried up, but the sort of nostalgic podcast of kids shows that are running rampant in the
Boy Meets World, etc.
yes, the Ned's Declassified, all those types
Yes.
of child stars go back and revisit the thing they made podcasts.
Except we would be really old.
We'd also be less interesting because we'd be behind the scenes and not the
Yeah,
stars you
nobody
remember.
Nobody would care.
Well, then we did see 5 seconds of the Today Show. The only reason I included this is because this is the only glimpse we have into a interesting episode of the Today Show where the Muppets, the Sesame Street Muppets, take over the Today Show from 7:30 to 8 a.m. that day.
Oh, okay.
It's the same day that Sesame Street premiered the season, so they were there to promote that, obviously. And at one point, Meryl Sheep and Count Von Count take over for regular anchors on the Today Show.
Meryl Sheep of all Muppets got to do that, huh?
Mm-hmm. And
Wow.
I have not gone back to research this, Sam, but I am pretty convinced that at one point in the early days of Kermitment, we were talking about their appearances on the Today Show, and I said, having glanced at Muppet Wiki's future, saying, weirdly, at one point, the Count and Meryl Streep co-host the Today Show.
Oh, and we didn't know.
And we didn't
Meryl
know.
Sheep
And I think
was
we were
yet.
like, what a wild ass thing to happen. Why would that happen? And we said, maybe one day we'll find out. Come to find out, if I did say that, which I feel like I'm like 95% certain I did, we were wrong.
That's still a wild thing to happen, though.
Still very wild. Not quite as wild as Meryl Streep and the Count
No.
co-hosting the Today
Meryl
Show.
Sheep's infinitely more gettable than Meryl Streep.
I imagine some, Muppet fans shaking their heads at us when I said that originally.
Yeah. But it looks like this bird Katir thing was like a running thing in this season of the show, huh? Or no, that had already happened in season 60.
We had seen some Birdketeers at one point because we saw them when they went to, I think, Hoots Jazz Club or whatever it was. There were some Birdketeers, I think, allowed in there.
Oh, yes, you're right. The kids, kids running around in big bird capes is very familiar to me now that I'm seeing them.
Seems like the club was formed in season 16.
But this whole episode, it doesn't exist anywhere except maybe in the 30 Rock archives.
Right. This was the clip that I pulled of this is from a longer, I think it was MSNBC special in the early 90s, paying tribute to Jim. And that's where we found a lot of our clips of their NBC appearances because that's the only time they've been sort of pulled out of the vault.
Gotcha.
And so that's why we've had a lot of very weird, random 15 seconds of Gene Shalit and Frank Oz or those kinds of things because we get the scraps that NBC lets out of the vault.
We need more Muppets take over a TV show in the world. I think it'd be a better place.
Then we watched the clip from the season premiere, episode 2486, of the Alone Together song, which we pretty much talked about, I think, as much as they're probably to say.
Just all the looks they were giving each other was so like, hey, you're talking about having sex, huh? Right on Sesame Street. Are ya?
My biggest takeaway from this was Snuffy has a gigantic pith helmet on his head. Partially this is just because Snuffy is gigantic himself, but the idea of that giant pith helmet having to sit on a shelf somewhere in storage, that they're just like, where the fuck do you want us to put this?
Oh, I thought you meant at a real store, because sometimes I do think about, in a world where there are Muppets of various sizes, how hard it would be to make anything for anybody. You'd have to be like, I have to make a helmet that is for a bug, and I have to make a helmet that is for an elephant. How is this reasonable?
Or in the world of Sesame Street, where do Snuffleupagus' shop?
Yeah. I mean, there
where
must
they
be
buy
like
their
a
pith
whole
helmets.
Snuffy store in a cave somewhere in Central Park or wherever they live. Yeah, there's just like a whole different thing going on. Or like there's got to be a bar that's small enough for bugs to go to and with a door big enough for an elephant to go in.
Then we saw Bob and Oscar showing up on CBS this morning on the morning of November 15th, also promoting the 20th season of Sesame Street in a weird little mix of are we in character or are we not in character?
Which I think I feel like we haven't really seen this. I don't know. Like we haven't seen this laid back of an interview since maybe back in the like 70s talk show days when Grover would show up and be like a little rascal.
Right.
But this
like
to
Dick
me,
Cavett or something.
Yeah, Dick Cavett. That's the guy I was thinking of. This to be almost has Rolf and Jimmy Dean energy, I think. I think Bob and Oscar are
Mm.
genuinely best friends. There's just something about them where it's like when Oscar's like, with Bob, what you see is what you get, which feels so much like what we have gleaned from watching Bob too, where it's just like, this guy he's got an energy where you kind of know what kind of dude he is.
I also
Uh,
like that there's a point at which Oscar goes to say something describing Bob, and Bob very quickly is like, "Well, now watch it,
yeah,
Oscar.
careful. Yeah, I
Careful,
like that
Carol."
too. Yeah, and I like when the lady's like, "Didn't you used to sing?" And you can tell that Bob is like, "Now, wait a minute. I am huge in Japan, ma'am. I still have concerts."
I did like that he's like, "Well, I still also try to sing still. You
Yeah.
watch the show? I sing quite a bit."
He mentions it like 3 times after she asks that. He's like, "Yes, I still make albums. I still am on tour." But there was just something about something about this that was felt so classic to me, and it's such a good combo of people to be out in the real world together, because I think on Sesame Street they already both are towing the line of like inappropriate for
Mm,
children, and to
right.
have them get to cut loose a little bit, I think it's like the perfect pair.
Well, and Oscar gets to talk about how he used to be orange. He's like, "Yeah, if you turned in 20 years ago to Sesame Street, you may have noticed I used to be orange."
Uh-huh.
And says he went to a resort where it rained a bunch, everything got covered in mildew and made him all moldy, and voila, as he says.
Is this the origin of that, or has he said that before? Do you know?
Great question. I have to
Okay.
imagine he has said some version of this at one point,
Right. It's his
but
head canon for his own character. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's sort of, through the years we've heard Kermit uh, tell different stories of the Muppets, or Jim tell different stories of
Right.
things that's like, yeah, it's what's true today.
You know what? Carol actually strikes me as somebody who'd be like, this is the absolute truth. Like, he has
Mm,
the whole character backgrounds in his head, and he's like, no, no, no.
you're not,
That's not Big Bird's
yeah,
whatever.
you might not be wrong, because if you read his book, The Wisdom of Big Bird,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it sort of comes across like he has very specific thoughts about Big Bird and Oscar, and what they do and don't believe, and how they would behave in certain situations, which again makes total sense. But yeah, I would encourage anyone to read that book because it's fascinating, and there are definitely times where I feel like Carol Spinney is very honest about situations that you might not necessarily expect him to talk about.
Huh.
And he talks about his life on Bozo and a bunch of other things. So it's a nice combo with the I Am Big Bird documentary.
Because not written from the perspective of Big Bird, the wisdom of Big Bird.
It is surprisingly not,
Okay.
unlike the Before You Leap Kermit book, which
Sure.
is written from Kermit's perspective. Interestingly, they start off the segment saying, "Well, if you want to feel old, Sesame Street's already 20."
Yeah.
Which, now that Sesame Street's like
Nowadays.
1,000 years old,
Yeah.
it hits a little different.
You'd feel really old now if you remembered when it came out.
But Bob talks a bit about the changes through the years, and how it's been more of a slow evolution of changes on Sesame Street, and that they're trying to help kids out a bit more with their feelings and emotions. I think he mentions that in the early days, it was like 4 pages of the goals of the show, and now there's
Mm-hmm.
like a 75-page booklet of the goals they have for the show. So I think that is a nice thing. Again, I don't know what it's like these days, but knowing that they were always trying to change and keep up with uh,
Yeah.
the
The
eras they were
needs of
in.
children.
Because there are definitely things in some of these episodes that we watched where I'm like, I would be surprised if that cartoon would still air in more modern day Sesame Street, or even 10 to 15 years after it's airing on here.
Huh. Like which one?
The breathing one, I felt like was going to give kids like
Oh,
an
yeah.
existential crisis, where it was
Right.
like, if you
I have to
stop breathing,
breathe.
you die. Don't
I have to do
forget to
this the
breathe.
rest of my life. Yeah, that one
Yeah.
was kind of intense. Dr. Eyeballs or whatever her name is.
Hmm.
That's also a really weird name.
At one point, Bob starts talking seriously about Will Lee dying and how they had to cover that episode. And during this point, I feel like you can tell that Carol thought Bob was going to start to be boring,
Mm.
because
Mm-hmm.
Oscar starts to creep into the edge of the frame as if he's going to interject, and then realizes, oh, Bob's talking about Will.
Yeah, we
I'm
can't.
not going to interrupt right
Yeah,
now. So
we
he
can't
shows
be nasty about that.
some restraint on the part of Oscar. Bob spoils the season, saying Luis and Maria are going to have a baby.
All the kids out there really pissed. Hey.
Yeah. And that's when Oscar says he finds it sickening because cute babies are sickening to him.
Yeah.
And the host calls him out saying, "You haven't taken particularly well to stardom." And he says, "Yeah, me and Sean Penn. Don't try to take a picture of me."
Did Sean Penn beat up a photographer or something?
At this point, I believe he had assaulted at least 2 or 3
Oh,
photographers.
great. Yes. Every
'Cause
generation needs their bad boy in
terrible
quotes
person.
who is actually just an asshole who, yeah, it beats
Yeah, it's like,
people
ooh,
up.
look at this hunky bad boy. Oh, he's also awful in a lot of ways. Uh-oh. But yeah, Bob mentions Carol Spinney, which is one of those sort of fourth wall breaking moments, which causes Oscar to look around and down, confused. And then one of the last things that happens is Oscar says, "I hate to say this, but Bob does have a beautiful voice."
Yeah.
And as he
I
starts
want
to feel bad about that, the host is like, "Well, you know what? We won't let you feel bad about that for too long because we got to go."
I wonder if they were friends in real life. They seem like guys who'd be like drinking buddies, maybe.
To me, it feels like Bob and Carol were probably not necessarily closer than any of the other ones, but the rapport they had in this makes me feel
Yeah.
like they were more friendly
They shared a wavelength.
with especially with the "hey now don't go there" kind of thing. Where I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I feel like they definitely know the jokes that they would make about each other. Then we got to enjoy a clip of the song "I Think That It Is Wonderful" from episode 2492. This is something that was shot for season 19 but aired in this season. And yeah, as Sam noted earlier, this is one of the last bits to feature all these original guys together. So you got Fran Brill, Jim Henson, Frank Oz, and Jerry Nelson.
In Sesame Street or in anything? Like that the original guys are together. And
I
also, does that
mean,
mean the puppets or the actors?
I think it's the actors, and I think maybe specifically Sesame Street
Okay.
because, uh, yeah, I think this would have been. Yeah, I think we're talking about just Sesame Street here as far as these guys being together because I think things like Muppet Vision and maybe some other,
Oh,
like
sure. Muppets
we
Go
got
to
the Jim
Disney
Henson
World.
Hour,
Yeah, right.
coming up. So I think, you know, I don't know the chronological order of all these things, but I think this might just be a Sesame Street note about
Mm-hmm.
one of the last Sesame Street bits to feature all these guys together.
Hmm.
But yeah, this song apparently appeared once before on Sesame Street, sung by Big Bird and Mr. Snuffleupagus. But in this version, Ernie sings about how wonderful it is to be able to see the stars. Bert sings about hearing birds sing. Cookie sings about how wonderful it is to eat food. Prairie sings about how wonderful it is to be able to smell roses. And Harry thinks hugging his teddy bear is wonderful.
Yeah, the fact that it's all framed around them going to bed is a little weird because it's like Bert's listening to Night Birds, Prairie Dawn is sleeping in bed with a rose, and also
Mhm.
they're all going to bed when Cookie Monster is just sitting down to dinner.
I feel like Cookie Monster could eat at any time of the day,
Yeah.
though. And maybe he was
Sleep.
out partying. This is his, he came
That's
home,
true.
he's starving.
Yeah. Eating is higher on his Mavlov's hierarchy of needs or whatever than sleeping is.
I can't get the phrase Nightbirds out of my head now, but um, in my head, that's a Bert album he puts out.
Nightbirds,
Yeah.
yes, that's a good one. That's
Him and his pigeons put together an album
a
called
little
Nightbirds.
jazz trio with his pigeons or something. Yeah.
But this is just very, very sweet. I don't know, this is just one of those very sweet, touching Sesame Street songs that there's not much to say about it other than, aw.
Yeah, and it is nice to hear all of these guys who've I don't even know if I would have really thought about it if it wasn't noted that this was one of the last times they were together, or even like it's kind of maybe a big deal that that many Muppet performers are in one skit, regardless of it's their last time or not. But it was nice to see all those old characters too, like Prairie Dawn, who pops up a couple times in this set. But yeah, I agree, it was really nice.
Yeah, we haven't seen, I feel like we haven't seen Harry Monster in quite a while.
Right. Yeah. And I just love the image of Cookie Monster sleeping on a bed covered in cookies.
Well, then we've got the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. This clip is the Big Bird balloon with some Bert and Ernie walkarounds, while Bob, David, Gordon, Maria, Gina, and Miles are in the weird car thing that maybe is from something but we don't recognize.
Some kind of space car. If you know what this weird car is, tell us. Or if
Yeah.
it's just some standard Macy's car that's always there or something like that. But they don't get their float this year.
No big building. They just gotta sit in a weird blimp car while Bert and Ernie walk next to them.
And the balloon of Big Bird is really nice. That's a cool balloon. Willard is like over the moon for this balloon. He's like, what a shot. Beautiful of this balloon. And that model that lady had of the balloon is really cool too. I wonder if there's a little model like that for all the balloons.
Yeah, I mean, that lady is Sandy Duncan,
Ah,
who
sure.
we have
Okay.
seen on The Muppet Show,
Yeah.
who I think she's excitedly talking when we are looking at them in the weird car about Bert and
Yeah.
Ernie. But
Right.
when we cut back to Willard talking about the balloon, she's just grasping onto the Big Bird model
And
and
like doesn't
not
say a peep the rest of the
speaking.
time.
You even feel like
Willard really,
there's like a couple spots for her to jump in,
yeah.
and she doesn't.
So Willard has to just be like, I guess I'll keep talking about this balloon then.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's the same. This balloon will be used until the year 2000, and they got a different balloon in 2001, where Big Bird is playing some cymbals. It looks like. I'm not
Okay.
sure why. I'm sure there was maybe a toy or a movie reason he had cymbals at the
Right.
time.
Or like a marching band beneath him or something like that.
That would also make sense. But that one I think hasn't been seen since 2006.
Hmm.
So I don't think there's been a Big Bird balloon in quite a while. But yeah, Willard Scott obviously goes way back with Jim and the boys. So I think he just has a soft spot whenever there's Muppet things
He
involved.
knows the Muppets. Yeah, they're his best friends.
Then from January 18th, 1989, we watched Billy Joel singing Just the Way You Are with Marley Matlin to Oscar the Grouch.
But a special version of it. That I want to learn the special version of it.
Sam, I know this song. Could not have told you it was Billy Joel.
Oh, you're a sick man. That's why. You don't care
He
about
started
the
singing it. I
important-
was like, oh, I know this.
You don't care about Billy Joel. You don't care about Bruce Springsteen. You're a sicko. You don't like New Jersey. That's your problem.
Maybe I've never been, so
You
I
hate
feel like
New
I can't.
Jersey.
I
and
can't
all
judge
of
it
their,
appropriately.
all of their important
Exports.
cultural exports. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big Bon Jovi fan either.
There's no
Although,
helping you.
you know what, Sam? You know who's from New Jersey?
Who?
My Chemical Romance. So
Oh, okay. So you.
if I have
yeah.
to pick my favorite New Jersey band, it's My Chemical Romance.
I wonder if they have some people, some big time New Jersey people get like a rest stop named after them. I wonder if Gerard
there a
Way
My
has the
Chemical rest
Gerard
stop?
Way rest stop. Yeah.
I mean, he just have a road called Gerard Way.
Oh, he could. That would be really easy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we get the, as you said, self-confessed Grouch groupies, and they, you know, this perplexing logic they lay out where they love Grouches so much that whenever Billy Joel has to throw out a used piano, he has to give it to a Grouch.
Yes. That's nice.
How many
That's nice
how many
of
times do you
him.
think that's happened?
He's hard on pianos. That one. That piano looked like shit. It had like wires poking
I
out
was
of
gonna say,
it
I think they
somehow.
just glued a bunch of shit to it. Oscar's thrilled to be getting the used piano, but he does not want to hear a love song in exchange for getting the piano.
Nah.
And so
But
he
too
tries
bad,
to
basically.
he tries to put on some disguises, different wigs and things, because the whole song is about "We love you just the way you are." And he's like, "Well, what if I do change after you say I shouldn't change?"
Yeah. I can sympathize with Oscar at this moment. I would be also very embarrassed if somebody was singing a song to me like this. But this is great. I'm glad that you added this one in for me, basically, right?
Yeah, totally.
And
I saw. I usually look through the list of Sesame Street episodes and it's like, okay, who are the guest stars this season? And if there's anyone that I feel like we would care about more than the average person, I
yeah,
add it to the list. So
I do think
Billy
it's
Joel
important.
got added because of you.
I think it's important that children learn about Billy Joel. So I like that he was included in Sesame Street.
The soap opera, honeymoon, parents bringing home babies, that's less important. Billy
Yeah.
Joel is really the cultural touch point these kids need.
Billy Joel becomes a reoccurring character for a decade of Sesame Street.
I feel like Oscar and Billy Joel would actually be better friends.
I think so too.
Then-
I think once they got to know each other, he'd be like, "Oh, you're a dirtbag too, just like me."
Guessing a lot of dispersions this episode. Yeah, I think this is an interesting time for Marley Matlin because as we talked about, she was everywhere in the 90s,
Mhm.
but this ain't the 90s. She had
That's
really
true.
only done Children of a Lesser God at this point. So, well,
Oh.
yes, very famous, very well known. I don't think she was quite the cultural like touch point that we see her as now.
Right. This was her inroad to becoming omnipresent.
Yeah, it was Children of a Lesser God, and then she was like, I really got to do Sesame Street to keep up my public image.
Oh, Billy Joel invited her to be in the "We Didn't Start the Fire" music video. after this because of this appearance.
Because of this.
Yeah.
Wow. They did become friends.
They did.
Well, next we watch a song called Air. Realizing that there was another trend this season. Hey, don't forget to breathe, kids.
Yeah, maybe there was a big problem going around. Breathing sucks.
Yeah. But this was Jim's last time as Bip Bipadada, and I love Bip Bipadada, always do. And just there's some extremely rapid puppet movement in this one that I kind of want to see the behind the scenes of how quickly these people were running around and shooting their arms up in the air, because these puppets move just impressively fast.
They also dressed so cool. They're like dressed like normal, cool 80s people, which I think was really interesting.
Well, and one is the fat blue pattern, like Mr. Johnson, but it looks like Mr. Johnson's cool son,
Mr. Johnson Jr.
Yeah, who doesn't talk to him anymore because of his
and he gets really
conservative political views.
He gets really embarrassed about how rude he is to waiters.
Yeah. My dad voted for Reagan.
He never tips, which is why Oscar's always fucking with him.
Yeah. And his dad tries to explain, like, no, but have you seen my waiter? This dude sucks. Why would I tip him?
Started it.
Yeah, this is just a cute song about why we need air and all the places we use air.
Such as balloon, etc.
And lungs.
Yeah, and lungs. Too important. Kind of the lungs are the balloon of the body, aren't they?
Wow, that's deep, Sam.
You think when he was done being Bip Bipadada, he like dug a grave for him and lowered him into the ground? Did he know?
I think he probably had a nice warm cup of tea to soothe his throat.
Right. I did write, like, why does Bip Bipadada exist? And then I thought, there isn't really a character on Sesame Street with that voice that Jim does.
No, this is also, I think, more of a like, obviously it's a little bit closer to a Rolf or a Dr. Teeth voice, but it is definitely like the voice that Jim used in a lot of characters in the 60s on like Ed Sullivan and stuff. Like, not just Manamana, but Bip Bipadada feels like a Muppet from a different time.
Yeah, totally. You could be rude and say that this is Jim's other voice of the two voices he has.
You could be rude and say that. I will not.
He also has the southern version of this, so I guess that's a third voice that he's got.
He's also got Guy Smiley, which is a little different.
Oh yeah, he does. You're right.
It's less gravelly. It's still loud and yelling, but not
That's
gravelly.
True. It's loud. It's loud Ernie kind of is Guy Smiley. But really, why are his arms so short? You gotta think Jim would be like, guys, can we do something about these arms? They just are like, do they even have rods, or are they just?
I think so. I think they're just flailing.
Yeah,
which works.
Weird character.
Then we got to visit Hiroshi, who is renting the garage as an art studio from Oscar, and Oscar and Bruno show up to collect the rent.
He brings Bruno for intimidation purposes.
Oh, Bruno is the muscle.
Bruno will snap you in half.
Yeah. Bruno will just like toss the trash can aside and then just grab and crush Hiroshi's head if he needed to.
He would. He's got Frankenstein's monster energy for sure. But I liked Hiroshi. I would have liked to see a little bit more of him.
Well, you just got to watch all of season 20 of Sesame Street.
Get some Hiroshi storylines.
Yeah. Or go on Muppet Wiki, look up all of his appearances, and just watch those on YouTube.
Yeah. I wonder if they taught the kids anything about nasty landlord practices outside of this.
I doubt it. This seemed like it was more of an excuse to talk about art. Because,
that's true.
Hiroshi is an artist, and his payment, which, to be fair, if you were a landlord and you were asking for money and someone made a statue of you out of money, you might be upset. Like, yeah, but cool. Where's the money, though? Because Hiroshi just makes a statue out of pile trash for Oscar.
That is funny. He's like, I don't have enough trash, but I used all this trash to make this trash sculpture.
Which Oscar thankfully is flattered by.
Yeah, he does like it.
He says it's like the
greatest piece of Grouch art ever made or something.
Yeah,
like
the history of the world, I think.
Yeah.
So he's definitely flattered, but if all he wanted was trash, he didn't really get that.
Nah, and Hiroshi did a lot of extra work he didn't need to do.
It's also like, okay.
Yeah, I think it's just fine.
That
banana's not trash. That banana looks ripe. It's not even like a messed up, gross banana for his mouth. He's smiling.
I think I expected it to look a lot more like Oscar.
Yeah, totally. But everybody's really nice about it, and they do stand around the sculpture and say, "Hiroshi, this is amazing."
Maybe it's that thing where if it looked too good, it would look like a puppet. And
confusing.
so
Yeah.
the uncanny valley of puppet is different than the uncanny valley of a human. So
I
you
made
have to
an
make it
exact
really far away from what that puppet looks like.
Yeah, like if you were a landlord and somebody made a statue of you made out of money that looked unsettlingly like you, that would be
It's
bad.
like another thing I think we've talked about on this podcast before in cartoons, where a cartoon character draws a portrait of another cartoon character and it looks just like that cartoon. And you're like, wow,
Photorealistic.
in their world, they are the best artist who's ever lived. Well, then we checked out the street scenes from episode 2544, the episode where Maria announces she is pregnant.
But more importantly, the premiere of Bluebird.
Yes, much more importantly and impactful to the world of Sesame Street, the appearance of Bluebird. So yeah, Big Bird greets us. He's super stoked because Luis and Maria are going to take him to the park. But Maria does have to disappoint him because she does have to fix a toaster and make a phone call.
At the beginning of this one, Big Bird's standing behind his fence of doors in a weird way where it's just his head popping over. And I knew it was about her being pregnant. And it made me think that it was like when a character, like a New Girl, when Zoe Deschanel was pregnant and she's like always carrying like a big pillow or something. I was like, is Big Bird pregnant? He can't
Big
show
Bird
us.
has to hide his belly.
Yeah.
We've got 2 pieces of good news for you today. Maria's not the only one having a baby.
Yeah. Big Bird was a girl the whole time, and he laid an egg. And he's like 35. He's just been pretending to be a baby.
There's a great moment where when Maria starts to reveal to Big Bird that she can't take him, he's like packing up his like, toys for the sandbox, and he just freezes in place and turns around slowly and says, "Would you mind repeating what you just said? I was so busy. I don't think I heard you say what I think you said."
If a real Big Bird said that to me, I think I'd say, "Let's go to the park, bud."
Yeah.
It's kinda
okay.
scary.
Yeah, buddy, it's fine. Yeah, he gets real sad and mad, especially when she says she has to fix a toaster.
Yeah.
And so he tries to ignore her while she encourages him to write a story with his crayons. And he's doing the la, 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 la while she's trying to tell him. And once she gets through to him, there's a very good line where he turns around. He's like, "Oh, write a story?" She's like, "So you can hear me?" And he's like, "Yeah, sometimes I can listen and la la at the same time. Not everyone can do it, but I can."
He's great.
It felt like a Pee Wee Herman line.
Exactly. He was being very Pee Wee in this moment, I think. Yeah.
So he is going to write a story about a bird who doesn't tolerate people who break promises.
And it would have made perfect sense for them just to make this be Big Bird. But for some reason, they decide to make it be Bluebird, who is so close to Big Bird that it's extremely confusing as to what is supposed to be going on here exactly.
Because he has the body of Big Bird.
Yeah.
But the blue version from Follow That Bird.
And it literally is the same costume, is at least what it says on
the same torso.
Okay.
Yeah. They added new arms, legs, and head because, as you may notice, his legs are different colors and his feet are much smaller than Big Bird's. And the head is just completely different.
Yeah,
Instead of moving eyelids, he's got weird eyebrows. But the bigger differences are
chin.
But the bigger differences are that he is performed by Rick Lyon and voiced by Reg E. Cathy.
Yes, and you'll know who that is if you look him up for sure.
Yes. Mostly I know him from House of Cards, where he was the guy who owned the Rib restaurant.
Yes, right, exactly.
But he's also on The Wire and Oz and a bunch of other things.
So Bluebird has a beautiful voice, basically.
Yes, he
does. A beautiful,
does.
Heroic voice.
Very commanding.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick Lyon, who we've talked about in the show, was in Avenue Q, the original cast. He was also the guy who showed up to a con not that long ago dressed as the Jim Frank, like half and half costume.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I was actually looking him up a little bit, and not that long ago on Instagram, he posted a fun fact about Muppet Vision 3D, which he worked on, saying that in the long opening shot where so much is happening as Kermit walks through, he starts off the scene playing Zoot in that. And then he had to run under the set to go perform Miss Piggy in the doorway, way in the background. And then he had to run under the set again to go perform Bunsen's right hand once Kermit gets to Bunsen.
That's awesome. That's all one
so he
long
played.
shot. We got to go back and watch it again.
Let's go. All right, Patreon patrons. Last minute trip in the next month. We got to go back to Disney World. But he also played Fozzie's right hand in the pie scene and mentioned that, yes, Frank and I got covered in foam. But yeah, there's also some notes on Muppet Wiki about Bluebird, saying the idea was to give Big Bird a fantasy life. The idea was not entirely unlike the current Baby Bear fantasy character Hero Guy, which we are not familiar with, but I'm assuming we will be at some point. But they said the character tanked because the perception was that Carol Spinney was unhappy with the presence of another Big Bird character on the show, which I don't know.
I've been thinking about. I've seen that quote too, and I was thinking about it. It just doesn't feel right to me, but what do I know?
Yeah, what feels more right to me is that the note here says some people involved in Sesame objected to the sort of cartoon superhero violence implied in foiling the bad guy.
Yeah, and the second time we see him, he does kind of beat the shit out of the sock stealer.
He does bowl a man.
Yeah, which is fair because somebody needs to beat that guy up. But that seemed like a little much to me.
But this first one I loved. Because the kids get to a playground, everything's covered in toasters and telephones.
They went outside for this one, which is crazy.
Yeah. Imagine how long it took them to put like 100 toasters and telephones all over this playground in Central Park.
Yeah, and they had to get a permit probably. Like, this was hard to make. So they were banking on Bluebird, I think.
But I loved this. I love the theme song for Bluebird that says something like he's faster than most other guys.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he flies.
These were like funny in a way that I think was like it's like the old Batman cartoons, which I think, or the old Batman show, which I think is probably what they were going for. But there's like there's a part in each of the episodes where he's got like a stick in front of him, or like he's got a sock on his nose, and everybody's like, "Where did Bluebird go?"
Well, see, this is my biggest problem with the second one. I like the first one a lot because the concept of the toaster fixer phone caller is fun. I like that Maria is the bad guy in the story, which is an interesting dilemma for kids.
Right.
But I love that his disguise works instantly. He holds up a branch in front of his face and none of the kids know where he is. And in the second one, they try to revisit some of these things, but it doesn't work as well because he puts a sock on his face. And one kid is like, where did he go?
Everybody else, including like the adults in the scene, are still staring at Bluebird.
They're all staring at him.
You idiots.
They have a conversation with him while he still has the sock on his face. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you kind of abandoned that.
There's just one stupid kid now.
Yeah, so that's why I liked the commitment to the idea in the first one by not only going outside, wrecking a whole park for a day, not letting kids play, but also
like real kids, you mean?
Yeah, the real kids who were taken by their parents or nannies that day to Central Park to play in the playground. They're like, "Oh,
you
Big
can't
Bird
play in the playground."
There's a guy who looks like Big Bird is here, and he's covered the playground in toasters, and we're not allowed to play with anything.
And as I've mentioned, it's not actually Big Bird. It's just a guy who kind of looks like Big Bird. So that's not very fun either. And also the fact that they went outside and the way it was shot, to me, had Pete and Pete vibes. And I think Bluebird also had like Artie, the strongest man in the world vibes, where it's just like it's implicitly accepted that he does have all of these superpowers, and everybody is like very impressed by him, even though he doesn't really display.
He's actually very
much.
incompetent.
Yeah, he's less incompetent than his enemies, which I guess is all that's important.
I will say though, there is a point at which it does look like Bluebird has some sort of magical powers, because most of that scene is him just disappearing from behind like lampposts and things with very, very, very 80s cropping effects applied to them.
Some chroma keying that's not so great.
Yeah, you can there's like literally parts where you can see black where like the mat has been cut out.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, it ends with the mayor thanking Bluebird personally.
Yeah, this was fun. I think it was a mistake to not make him just be Big Bird, though. I think if
Carol Spinney could do a voice.
Yeah,
just fine.
Or maybe it would have been funny if it was Big Bird's body and that voice was coming out of him. He's just like,
Also would have worked.
I'm
And he's
heroic
got
Big
just
Bird.
like a mask on, like a Ninja Turtle style mask. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, who is this mysterious bird?
Yeah. But the fact that he is almost Big Bird, but not Big Bird, is
Yeah.
confusing enough that the whole time I was just thinking, is this supposed to be Big Bird?
That's the thing, is they don't portray it as like a Clark Kent Superman situation.
Right.
This is just Big Bird's idea of a superhero.
Yeah. And they already have this in Super Grover. Like, it could have just been a
Right.
continuation of the Super Grover idea.
Yeah. Well, then Luis and Maria come in to tell Big Bird the actual good news that Maria is pregnant. Big Bird wants to see the baby and doesn't quite understand
Can't.
how a baby got in Maria.
Yeah. And they don't quite explain it, though they do say that
Well,
they collaborated on this baby.
yeah. So we decided that we wanted to have a baby. So together we started a baby growing in her body.
Yes. You'll understand when you're older, which will be never because you're
Never.
cursed to be a baby.
I did like the line from Big Bird saying, "1 minute you're fixing a toaster, the next there's a baby growing inside of you."
And that's just how it happens sometimes, Big Bird. I don't know what to tell you, bud.
And thankfully, Big Bird is no longer upset about not going to the park. He's more excited to tell everyone the good news that Maria and Luis did not tell him he could share, but he
Yeah,
does go
but
around shouting.
you know what you're getting into with Big Bird. And they do look at each other like this was the next logical step of
Yeah, they didn't
this.
try to stop him.
Right. You don't tell Big Bird until you're ready for everybody to know.
Well, this episode wraps up with the song that's been in my head now for a while, ever since I posted the clip on Instagram
Yes, it's all
a few months
about you.
ago. Was I'm Gonna Be a Dad, where it's Luis singing a song all about being a dad soon. And then Oscar pops up at the end, annoyed by Luis being happy.
Yes, I like that. Shut up. And then Maria comes out and he's literally shaking with rage as she's singing her mom song.
Because he seems like he wouldn't tell Maria to shut up.
Yeah. Yes, that is one of my favorite of all Sesame Street conceits, is the underlying best friendship between Oscar and Maria, where they have the mutual respect of being the only two people on the street who would dare tell each other how it is, yell at each
Yeah.
other or anything like that.
I don't think he calls her skinny anymore, though, like he used to.
That would be funny if he was like, "Oh, you're pregnant. I can't. Not really applicable anymore."
You gotta retire the skinny nickname. Well, then Luis and Maria end the episode by tucking in Big Bird, who is whining and crying as he pretends to be a baby for the next 9 months for them.
I assume that they will find that perhaps a real baby is easier than a 9-foot tall bird who ruins their lives every day.
It's only going to be 3 months until they have that baby in the world of Sesame Street.
Yeah,
so
right.
Don't worry. Then we saw Oklahoma with Kermit and Forgetful Jones, where Kermit's the director. Forgetful Jones is the star of the movie. Which, come on, Kermit, you knew what you were getting.
Yeah, it's like, you did this to yourself, buddy. You're the most stressed out guy in the whole world, and his name is Forgetful Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that Forgetful Jones is one of the only characters I think we've ever seen who's like cowering in fear from Kermit. Like,
He does.
Nobody else respects Kermit except Forgetful Jones, who's genuinely afraid of him.
Yeah. Oklahoma, Kermit's a little understanding. Like, okay, well, you saying the wrong thing there. It's okay. Oklahoma, a little bit more upset. Oklahoma sends Kermit
too far.
Yeah, he has a classic Kermit freak out. Truly puts the fear of God into Forgetful, who does get it right the following time after Kermit scared him.
Which is a big accomplishment, because that guy is a fucking idiot.
Yeah. But it turns out that the last 3 takes took so long that they'd have to break for lunch.
Yeah, a bit of like entertainment industry insider comedy for the kids show.
There's an extra layer as well, because when the woman is holding up the slate for the thing, the cameraman is listed as Frank Biondo, who was...
Oh, that's the real cameraman.
Correct. He was the camera one operator on Sesame Street from day one.
Yeah. I think he was in that rap party.
He was the host of the rap party who was making most of the unfortunate jokes.
The off-color jokes, yeah.
Yes. I think we had decided that was maybe Frank's idea to do that rap party variety show.
We got to get Frank to do it. Yeah. I think it's funny that they call it a slate in that skit too.
There's a lot of inside knowledge being done there.
But this is
But
good. I like the trend of this batch of having characters that we haven't really seen together.
then we watched what I think is a delightful little scene called 20 something from episode 2559 from February of 1989. For those that don't know, 30 something was a TV show that was on TV at the time in the 80s.
Something, right.
This is the Countess coming over to watch TV with the Count. Time for some Netflix and Count. They're going to sit down, watch TV. As the Countess says, I do enjoy this show. And the Count says, yes, that's because it's about people just like us. Which I think was the sentiment around 30 something at the time, is that it was just a show about normal people in their 30s.
Yeah, but this show is literally about the Count and the Countess.
Yes, playing just a normal mom and dad. The Count's preparing a bottle for his baby and counting the number of cries and telephone rings. And he's just wearing normal man clothes.
Yeah, kind of 80s dad clothes, though. Got suspenders on.
He looks exactly like a wrestler that existed back then, who was called IRS. He was a tax man.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He is dressed identical to IRS.
A little shout out for the wrestleheads out there.
You're welcome. But yeah, this basically just leads to some small arguments because the Countess and their daughter or girl
I think it's just
who
their
lives
friend.
nearby.
I think it's just their friend, yeah. Because they go off to work together, you know?
Oh, right. But is played like a daughter at first or like a friend of, yeah, it's confusing. Prairie Dawn essentially comes in and says she's going to date somebody who's 20 something. And the Countess lost track of how many times the baby cried, says it was 20 something. And the Count just won't accept.
He can't stand for this. It must be a specific number.
Which is why he leaves her for Susan Sarandon later on.
Yeah, he's stepping out on the Countess with Susan Sarandon. I'm not going to say he's wrong to do it, but
he is doing well with Susan Sarandon as well, it seems. So.
Yeah, she wants to go in his house pretty bad.
We watched a short segment of Grover rhyming, which Sam described really well in his summary earlier. Is pretty much just a fox and an ox trying to figure out how to rhyme with Grover, and none of them know how, even though they keep accidentally doing it.
Yeah, because every line in the whole thing is rhyming, basically, where a fox comes up to Grover, he leaves a box, and there's rocks and socks inside the box. It's a little weird that, like, a hand comes out.
I love that hand because it comes out, it's a human hand in, like, a green screen glove with robotic noises attached to it for some reason.
It's like, I don't know, at some point, it's like Thing. It's like Thing. They should have just got Thing to come out, huh? But maybe kids didn't know who Thing was. You know that game Fester's Quest? That video game Fester's Quest?
I'm familiar.
Never mind. It's not.
It's an NES game, right?
Yeah. I was reading about it once, and it was like, this came out like 10 years after Addams Family ended, and like 10 years before the Addams Family movie. So like, no,
there was no public
Fester
interest
was.
in Uncle Fester at that point.
Yeah. So it's probably the same deal with this, where nobody cared about who Thing was. But yeah, every line rhymes, and then at the end, it's so, because it's like, this is an okay skit, but then at the end, Grover really brings it home because he's like, do you guys know any rhymes at all? And everybody's like, no, I couldn't possibly know a single rhyme. And the fox also looks like Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog to me. He's got like the wrong eyes. He doesn't have Muppet eyes. You know what I mean?
He definitely looks a little different. Whereas the ox just looks like Gladys with some horns, like, or hair taped to her head in a different way.
But this fox has like cartoon character eyes. But yeah, Grover stays winning in my book.
Yeah, Grover even has to carry the weight a little bit later on in one of the episodes we watched, where he's interacting with a little girl named Zelda, who is not given anything to this sketch.
No.
And is one of the least, I think, interested in Muppets little kids we've ever seen, because she's just staring down at Frank almost the whole time.
Yep.
And the whole thing is about above and below, and I'm like, she's just gonna say a guy is down there. Like, what's below us? A guy.
A guy. No, you're setting her up to say a guy. She's also, I was wondering about Zelda because she seems young enough to be named after the video game Zelda, and I was wondering if perhaps this could be one of the first children named after the video game Zelda.
I mean, I think Zelda Williams is one of the first children to be named after the Zelda video game, but I think this Zelda would have predated her by a few years. Well, then we saw Oscar get his grouch dog named Preposterous. We watched the street scenes from this episode, so we got to see the ramp up to Oscar getting his dog, where he comes back from the dump. runs into Gina and Gordon with his squeaky rubber pickle, a hairbrush, which he uses as an opportunity to make fun of Gordon. Because Gordon points out that the hairbrush actually looks like it could be useful. And Oscar's like, yeah, why don't you give it a try, Gordon? They figure out that Oscar's getting a dog and speculate that it's probably going to suck. Barking all night,
dog.
shedding constantly, no peace and quiet ever.
Bad dog, yeah.
But turns out Groucho Spaniels are just, sort of pug-like, and that they're sort of just there.
It's just a lump. This dog was making me mad too, because he was so boring. Like this was like boring, I thought, which maybe was the point of it, but also in a way that it's like, what are we learning here, guys?
Yeah, maybe they could have done more with the anticipation of like, oh, here he goes. He's going to be terrible and bark. And then he just like yawns and lays down.
And he's just the most boring dog ever.
Yeah.
I liked the end when everybody got really mad at the dog because I thought that was kind of fun. But up until then, it's just a lot of like people so disgusted by how boring this dog is. And they're just kind of looking at it and being like, I hate this fucking dog. They hate the dog so much.
I'm surprised to learn this dog is around for 5 seasons and maybe they get better ideas with it later on, because it does feel like they're kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, because they have Oscar loves the dog but doesn't want to do all the cutesy things, doesn't want to feed it food called Doggy Din Din because that's too cute. So he makes a new label that's just called Fooey Food.
Yeah.
Which is not really much of anything.
Not really anything, yeah.
Telly shows up to help brush the puppy but gets tricked. Oscar tricks Gordon with a game of fetch. Barkley wants to say hello, but they also kind of get in a little fight. And then at the end, Barkley pulls Bob off screen so hard that Susan breaks character and starts laughing. But yeah, I agree. I put this on here because I saw the puppet and assumed this would be more interesting than it turned out being.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good little grouchy looking guy, but he doesn't do shit.
They eventually reuse the puppet for a cat, also a grouch cat.
Yeah, I saw that. But yeah, 5 seasons of this dog. That just seems like too much. I did like when Gina was like, "Hey, he's pretty cute," and Oscar's like, "No, he's not.
No, he's not." Then we saw the Vanishing Cow bit with the amazing Mumford and Gladys, who is at her most Miss Piggy in this diva-like scene.
Mumford is actually kind of a little scary because he's kind of like, you better shut up and just do what I say. I'm the amazing Mumford.
Yeah, thankfully I'm not too worried about Gladys, who I'm sure would just stomp and kill Mumford.
Yeah, she could. Yeah, I mean, was she in our favorite in our Muppet Death Match?
She definitely would have been. I don't know how far she made it, like who she was up against, but
she could definitely trample her way through a few people, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm sure she made it a round or two.
You know what? She was against Bruno the Trash Man, so actually,
we maybe gave that one to.
She was probably killed
Bruno,
by him. Yeah, his brute strength.
Because man can kill cow.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of our brackets, I was never more confident in our pick of Thog over the two-headed monster than when we watched this batch of things and we had to see the two-headed monster again. I was so done with them within the first 2 seconds.
They literally do nothing in this skit either. They just speak their baby talk to each other and like read.
They're just reading a book.
And then they just walk away at the end of it.
Yeah. They're not even trying to like figure out a word or talk to somebody else who's trying to figure out what they're saying. They're just reading a book.
Yeah, I hated it.
Ugh. Well, back to somebody we do like, which is Gladys. This is, Mumford tries to make her disappear a couple times and cannot. And he says, you know what? Sometimes you have to know when to quit, which is maybe the lesson of this sketch.
Could be. I suppose you're right. Or taking a different approach to a problem or something.
Yeah. So Mumford decides to turn Gladys into a duck instead. And this is when she decides it's time to quit and walks away, which means the amazing Mumford takes credit for making her disappear.
The cow has disappeared. But this is a fun duo. I like this pairing.
Yeah, like an incompetent boob with Gladys, I think is a good pairing. Yeah. I think we've seen this with Miss Piggy at times too, where she's paired with Gonzo or somebody who's like trying to do something and she's has a little bit of patience, but only so much.
Do you think Gladys and Miss Piggy would be friends or would they hate each other?
They'd hate each other. They'd be competitors for the same jobs.
Right. You're right.
You have 2 barnyard animals fighting it out for roles.
That would be fun to see. Gladys feels like she was meant for better things. Not that Sesame Street isn't great, but she does feel like she could fit in a lot of different places.
Yeah, but I think her cow body shape is more limiting than Miss Piggy's humanoid pig shape.
That's true.
As far
She's
as
like
like
Miss Piggy, but without all of that negative baggage that Miss Piggy has of the unfortunate jokes around just like,
the weight and stuff.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Gladys is like so proud of herself, and everybody else is like, Gladys, you're the best. We love you so much.
Well, then we got to see the second and last Bluebird segment, which is Bluebird versus the Sock Snatcher.
Yeah.
Bob's wearing
Somebody's,
mismatched socks today because he cannot find his other socks and theorizes there must be a monster like Cookie Monster, but for socks. This was one of the
Yeah,
moments
what
where I
a
was
weird
like,
thing to
oh,
say.
he hasn't seen Cookie Monster probably in a while.
Yeah. Also, Cookie Monster would eat socks. He's not
Yes.
above it. I like the beginning of this when Big Bird's like, "Hello, who's back there?" to the newspaper. He's like, "Ah, it's Bob."
And then he's like, Bob says, I can't imagine who would want to take other people's socks. And Big Bird's like, no, but I can.
He gets
And looks
very
off.
serious. Like he's got a history with the sock snatcher, and he imagines such a specific person that we've never seen before.
Well, and that's my problem with this one is that they took all the pieces that worked about the first one and sort of
Right.
undid them. Like
Yeah.
there's not a natural end to this. He just decides, what if I told another Bird story?
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, what if a guy we've never seen is the bad guy? Like
Yeah.
it could have been Cookie Monster in a disguise.
Exactly. They mentioned Cookie Monster. Why not just make it be him?
You got Chekhov's Cookie Monster in this sketch,
Yeah.
and he never shows up.
Instead of a pervert stealing socks, it's a pervert eating socks.
So Bluebird lands to the roof of the laundromat. He, as we talked about, he does the disguise thing again, but poorly this time. And then the sock pervert, the sock snatcher, shows up, starts stealing socks, runs into Bluebird, who bowls him down a table into boxes of laundry detergent that a little kid sets up for him.
Yeah, an act of actual violence.
My biggest takeaway from this was there's a no smoking sign in the laundromat,
Oh.
which made me question who on Sesame Street is smoking who needs to be told no.
I bet Gordon smokes probably.
The
He
Count.
sneaks up to the roof. The Count smokes a cigarette in one of those big holders for sure.
He lights it with his like candelabra.
Oscar smokes cigars.
Yeah.
Bob will have a cigarette every now and then, but he's got to save his voice. He's got to save his voice only when he's drunk. Yeah, he can't.
Ooh, I see. Bob is lounge singer Bob with his little cocktail and a cigarette, just being like,
exactly.
Let me tell you about working with Oscar the Grouch.
Well, a little something like this.
Yeah, that would have been if Bob retired from Sesame Street.
Yeah, Maria used to smoke.
Yeah,
Doesn't anymore.
She started young, but quit when she was like 19.
Yeah, she smoked through high school though, and
so there's actually a lot of people who
all of them smoke. Yeah.
We saw the Zero Cookies sketch, which is the one with the last version of Jim's Ernie and Frank's Cookie Monster together. This is one I've definitely seen before and absolutely love because Ernie says he's in a counting mood. Cookie Monster saunters by in the background when he notices that Ernie is going to count cookies. And Frank is just top tier Frank, as usual.
Yep. And I like when that Cookie Monster's getting messed with this time instead of him being the one messing with somebody.
Yeah, Ernie's not intentionally messing with him like he would with Bert. This is an accidental thing where he fully intends to count cookies.
I don't know how he ended up with 2 empty boxes of cookies that he didn't feel were empty, but that's okay.
Yeah. And then he starts to, as in his words, me go crazy. And he starts being very jittery and shaking because he hasn't had a cookie in too long. And thankfully, Ernie remembers that he put all the cookies in a jar, which Cookie obviously immediately downs all the cookies that were in the jar.
Yes, Ernie's intent, though. He's teaching us about Zero, secretly.
He should have been teaching us about moderation.
Yeah, Cookie Monster never really suffers the downsides of overindulging, does he?
We saw him sort of regret eating that Christmas tree.
That's the only time I can think of too where he was like, "Oh no, I went too far. I ate every piece of furniture."
What me
do? Yeah, I ate everything in Gordon and Susan's house.
And then we got to see Spider's Feelings, a itsy bitsy spider opera from Placido Flamingo.
Spider's Feelings is a great thing to say. Spider's Feelings.
As somebody who famously does not love spiders, Sam, how did you feel about spiders' feelings?
I'm all right. I can see a guy dressed in a silly spider outfit. That's
You can see
fine.
Bob Spider.
I can see Bob Spider. I loved Bob Spider because he was so torn between being embarrassed and also being like taking the role really seriously. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
they'd like an encore, eh?
There's other
So
bits
this
from
must
this
have
episode.
continued later, huh?
Yeah, there's other bits from this episode where Placido is basically keeping Bob trapped in that costume to like try
Perfect.
out other things and perform. And Bob is just a little bit embarrassed the whole time.
Yeah, but also he's kind of loving it. He's the center
Mm-hmm.
of attention. I like when Telly pours the bucket of water on him and he just catches the whole thing in his mouth.
Telly is a cloud who is, washing the spider out. And then out came the sun who dried up all the rain, which is a little girl just throwing towels off of a fire escape.
Yeah, the sun's kind of toweling us all off if you think about it. That's smart.
Mm-hmm. Then we saw the song Get Along, which was, speaking of weird pairings, the collection of Martians, Kermit, and Twiddlebugs in the same sketch was surprising.
It was like Avengers Endgame for Sesame Street.
Yeah. Name a more ambitious crossover. The Martians land on a farm, encountering a cow. We see Kermit sitting and reading. The Twiddlebugs are trying to get a penny back to their bank so they'll
And
be the
they're
richest
being
Twiddlebugs in the world.
yeah, and they're being so annoying as they always are. And I like that Kermit's like, "You guys are so little, but you got to shut up." And then a bunch of greasers show up.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I think ruins this a little bit is
Yeah.
that these greasers have no prior context, as far as I know, in Sesame Street.
Right.
It would have been maybe more fun if it was like Grover and Telly or something. But yeah,
Yeah, because Telly
Kermit,
has a motorcycle. We've seen his motorcycle before, right? Or we've heard him talk about having a
I think
motorcycle.
maybe has talked about it.
Yeah.
But this is I didn't know where this was going. I thought this is just a weird group of people for some
No.
reason.
You couldn't possibly guess it was going to turn into a doo-wop song, basically.
No. But Kermit takes over as director and tells everyone how to be a little less annoying, or at least how to use your annoyances in a melodic way. I believe he says, all in the spirit of harmonious collaboration.
Yes, that's right. This was great. I thought this was really fun.
Yeah, no, anytime Kermit Surprise shows up in a sketch,
Uh-huh.
I'm on board.
It takes a bunch of characters I dislike too, like the Yip Yip aliens and the Twiddlebugs, and turns them into something. I'm Kermit in this situation where I'm like, I couldn't stand to possibly be around any of you for any amount of time.
And he did what you would hope to do, is to turn them into less annoying versions of themselves.
Yes.
Whereas I don't mind them at all. So the greasers were actually the part that bothered me the most.
The greasers were okay. I like that they showed up and they were like, "Hey, Frog, you want to go for a ride in our car?"
Go cruising with Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
Then we saw a short little number called It Sure Is Hot, where a boy tries to flirt with a girl down the street by speaking some Spanish.
This was so overtly flirty in a way that was interesting to me.
Yeah, they're both very into each other. He speaks Spanish. I'm guessing he already knows and is not just assuming because her name is Rosalita that she'll be able to speak Spanish.
I did write one of my notes was, "Is this okay?"
There was parts of it that felt less okay.
I don't think
The
it's
beginning where he's like wanting to flirt with her and speaking a little Spanish, I'm like, okay, this seems all right. When they start just saying it's as hot as an enchilada, it's as hot as the inside of a tamale, is where like, okay, you're getting further away from the okay line.
Tostadas and stuff like that. Just kind of like,
yeah,
guys.
When everything it had to be as hot as some Mexican food.
This started cute until you started being a little racist.
But there is a little guy in this who I absolutely love. He kind of looks like Guy Fieri mixed with Prairie Dawn. And it's just, he looks very different from everyone else in the song. And I liked him a lot.
Yeah, this felt like 70s Sesame Street to me. This felt like a big throwback.
That's interesting because I think I see your point, but when it started, it also felt like 90s Sesame Street to me. I think we've talked in the past about, for some reason, we just associate with like bigger, deeper puppet sets as feeling a little bit more bigger budget 90s Sesame Street.
Right.
And so for this to have a whole big street built for it, that felt like a little bit more recent.
Was something I was wondering about, because it looked like at first like they were in front of 123 Sesame Street, but I don't think they were.
No, I don't think so. I think it's an entirely different set.
And they had built this whole damn thing, which is such a weird move for such a small thing. But maybe it's like the set they use for Super Grover or something like that.
They probably do reuse it for things that we just haven't seen. Then we got Beat the Time with Elmo from episode 2610 from May 5th, 1989. Guy Smiley is hosting Beat the Time. Elmo is the contestant. And as Sam pretty much summed this up already, he has to find some things like snacks, sneakers, and lastly, a Snuffleupagus.
Yeah, he's a competent Elmo as well.
Elmo pulls Telly out by his sneaker. And my favorite moment of this entire thing is Telly going, "Where am I?"
Yeah, that Telly was in the sneaker reveal was it was well done. They hide it for a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like Elmo also like knocked him out and dragged him to the studio.
Yeah. I thought it was funny also that like Elmo steals that guy's snacks, and there's such a long conversation between Guy Smiley and the guy whose snacks got stolen, where he's like, "Hey, you're Guy Smiley. This is cool. I'm standing on the stage." There's also that weird part in the 20-something skit
Yep, I was
where
just gonna bring that up. You reminded me of that.
where somebody says something and they just like stand there silent for a long time.
I think it's the little girl Prairie Dawn character who says
Yeah.
something like it sounds like it maybe is supposed to be a joke, but it's not
Right.
delivered like a joke. And they
Right.
all just look around as if they're supposed to be like a narrator or something happening. And maybe it's a 30-something reference,
Maybe
but
so, yeah.
they just stand there looking around like someone forgot their line, but they
Very
couldn't
odd.
edit it out.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, this teaches kids about noise, but not about tracking time, because the 30-second timer in this game
Yeah.
show takes over 2 minutes to run out.
Uh-huh. Almost fast as fuck too. If this is
Mm-hmm.
or Guy Smiley's studio is just right inside one of the doors of Sesame Street, I guess could be.
Yeah. But yeah, what you said earlier about the scale being off, I think you're right in that these sets are built for puppet scale. And so
Yeah.
they're just a little different than if a man walks into it.
Right.
And with Snuffleupagus, that is just a man walking into that set.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Disguised as an elephant.
Uh-huh. So Bob would have also destroyed the entire set
Correct.
were he to try to walk through the door.
It would have been like an Ultraman Bob situation.
Oh no. Wow, I could so easily picture him turning into Ultraman.
Just Ultra Bob.
I think he would use his powers for evil, though. I don't think
I like
Bob
the
is somebody you
idea.
want to give the Ultraman power to.
I like the idea of an Ultraman suit, but like the design of it is like one of his sweaters.
Yeah, right. And he like doesn't fight any of the monsters. He's just kind of like, "Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
I'm
Why
big, you're
can't we
big."
stop and sing? Well, then we saw Grouch Bus Stop with Kermit and Oscar.
Oh boy, this
My
is great.
one, it's great. Two, it's the last Jim Kermit at home sketch that exists.
Oh wow, his house is destroyed, so of course it is the last
Mhm.
one. He has to move.
But it's also normally these have like a little bit more buildup to like Kermit doing something, and then
Uh-huh.
Grover shows up. This one starts off, Kermit says, "Ah, a very quiet day at home," and immediately is a loud pounding on the door, and he is interrupted by the Grouches showing up to put a bus stop in his living room.
What a great conceit.
But yeah, Kermit protests over and over as they put a bus stop in the middle of his living room as Grouches show up to ride the bus. And I love Kermit's lines where he's like, "It doesn't go with my decor," and "You just ruined my rug."
I like that Oscar is also calling him like frog legs and green beans. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's good. You got Grover in your life, you just have a minor inconvenience, but you have Oscar in your life. He just he does so effortlessly what Oscar's been trying to, or he does so effortlessly what Grover has been trying to do for like 20 years.
Right.
Which
He's
is
competent and slightly evil.
uh-huh.
Grover is just incompetent.
Yeah. He might get your house a little wet or something, but
Mhm.
Oscar is gonna have a bus drive through it.
And the last thing we watched this week, which, we'll sort of sum up here, is the season finale, the episode 2615 with the birth of Gabriella. And as we learned in a previous episode, the one right before this, they try to go to the hospital and they have all these troubles where Gordon and Susan's car gets towed because it was parked illegally.
Oh. So
And
the
then
previous episode was about this.
yes, at the end of the previous
Okay.
episode, or actually all throughout the previous episode, they're trying to get to the hospital because the baby's coming. And so they go to get Gordon and Susan's car, which was the plan. But
Right.
the car has been towed. They're going to try and get a taxi, but it's late at night. They can't get one. And so finally, Oscar offers to take them in the sloppy jalopy, which is why at the beginning of this episode, he just happens to be in the hospital, which is kind of weird since we didn't see the previous one.
They do mention it eventually.
Eventually, but
yeah.
when you first start off, you just see Oscar waiting in the hallway of the hospital, and Luis comes out and is like, "Hey, can you call Hoopers and let them know what's happening?"
There is like Oscar's the only one with a car. I feel like that is
The
one
Count
of
has
his...
a car, but he will not let you use it.
I don't think I'd want the Count to drive me to the hospital either. I think he's probably a reckless driver.
Oh, I feel like the sloppy jalopy is way more. I don't know. I feel like crash happy. I feel like he wouldn't care about stop signs and stuff.
Yeah, the Count loves this car. He's working on it all the time.
Right. That's why he won't let you borrow it, is because it's too nice.
Right.
But yeah, this episode, as Sam mentioned earlier, is mostly the trials and tribulations of is the baby gonna come? Is it a boy or a girl? What's gonna happen? They keep missing each other with the phone calls, trying to call Hoopers, trying to call the hospital, until ultimately everyone shows up at the hospital right after the baby's been born to meet little Gabriella.
But there's the great undercurrent of Oscar asking himself if he's lost his touch, which I really liked as a B plot.
Is he really even a grouch anymore?
Yes. If
He starts to question it. Even trying to bother Luis and be like, "Luis, I got really something important to talk to you about right now. Your baby can wait. I need you to talk me down because I'm worried I'm not grouchy enough. Look at all the favors I'm doing for you."
I don't know. If my wife was having a baby, but at the same time, Oscar the Grouch was trying to open up to me on a personal level, I might kind of be like, I don't know which one is more important right now, actually.
And maybe that's why he did slow down and listen for a moment, because he realized this is something special.
Something's wrong with Oscar for reals.
He normally hates my guts. But yeah, throughout this, we also get to see Ernie and Bert playing the feelings game, which was from season 19. We talked about that last time. Still good, though. Still great.
I really liked the Kermit looking at baby pictures thing.
Oh my God, dude.
I thought that was amazing.
It's not just one of my favorite things from this episode. It's one of my favorite Sesame Street / Kermit things we've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree.
Kermit sings a song called My Pollywog Ways. This was written by Lee Pockris. I might be pronouncing that a little wrong. Sorry about that. But this is the same guy who wrote Catch a Falling Star and Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini.
What?
Yeah, which is why this song rules.
The same person that man wrote that those two songs were written by the same person is also wild to me.
Yes. But the fact that his career went on to... He wrote a bunch of songs for Sesame Street, it turns out.
Huh.
But Lounge Singer Kermit. This is from season 11, by the way. This is not the first time people would have seen this. This is from season 11. But Kermit talking about how he grew up, getting a little sad, talking about how he's a frog that went into show business.
Yeah. I like that. Then I went into show business. He was a groovy
so good.
Yeah.
This feels like the real Kermit to me.
I think you're right. I was thinking the same thing. Like, this is Kermit's history.
This is Kermit.
Real. I think everything we see of Kermit on Sesame Street is the real Kermit.
Slightly cocky, show businessy.
Yeah.
This lounge singer vibe he's got going on. I'd buy a whole album of this kind of Kermit. Just like talking to the audience between songs, Dean Martin style.
Him and Bob are both lounge singing. They're at two different hotels across the street from each other competing.
Near an airport, probably.
They started out as a double act, but then they fell out.
Ooh, I'm liking this. This works for me. One notable thing in this episode that I must mention is that we get to see our very first William Wegman dog sketch with Fay Ray, the dog.
That was the first one, huh?
It's the first one we've seen, and I feel like these are a staple of my version of Sesame Street in my head from my childhood.
They haven't put the dog in a suit and given him hands yet.
Not yet, but I can't wait. At this point, he just gets to do math.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. What are those Weimaraner? The
Weimaraners, yeah. Which is because of Fay Ray and these dogs. That's the only reason I know what a Weimaraner is.
Oh, me too. I don't think I've ever seen one in real life before.
I also love that I'm pretty sure this is just the reversed footage of an edition sketch, because I don't think the dog is as good at some... placing or taking away, whichever one I'm thinking of.
The balls are so still when they're placed that I was like, at first I was like, is there a magnet under them or something? But I know, it's just a backwards.
Yeah.
Played backwards.
But no, I think we have to wait a a little while until we start seeing dogs in costumes, which is a great Muppet Wiki page.
Yep.
There's so many dogs in costumes.
Yeah.
We should have done a Fay Ray podcast. At one point, Louise is trying to call Hoopers, but it's busy. Oscar's still out in the hallway. As they're freaking out, trying to talk about this favors thing, someone gets wheeled by as a patient in the background, and you can see the nurse like slapping the face of the person.
Oh,
like,
no.
Hey, come on.
I also said, like, when that happens, Luis also looks back, and in my head, I was like, oh no, does Luis think his wife has passed?
Oh. Well, Oscar yells at a passerby is there. It's like a husband and wife and a baby are walking by. He's like, I'm a grouch. And the guy's like, don't worry, grouches can be good daddies too.
Oh.
And Oscar's like, I'm not going to be a daddy. And there's some great, I think, out of context clips that I'm surprised no one has used so far, where he's like, I'm Oscar the Grouch, not Oscar the daddy. I'm not the daddy type. Come
Daddy
on.
meant something. Daddy didn't mean what it means now yet.
Yeah, come on, internet. Get on it. Use those clips of Oscar saying, I'm not the daddy type, or I'm not Oscar the daddy.
I'm not Oscar the daddy.
That's Oscar
I'm sure
Isaac.
some people think Oscar is daddy, because he is a little bit, huh?
But Oscar Isaac, more of Oscar the daddy.
Yeah, that's right.
We see the messiest baby eating the messiest cookie that's ever existed.
I gotta tell you, I skipped through this because I couldn't look at it. It was so disgusting.
I would encourage you to go back and watch it with maybe the video turned off and just the sound, or close your eyes or whatever, because it's great. Cookie Monster is doing a voiceover of this baby being real nasty, where he just, every time the baby drops the cookie, he's like, oh, for me, give me the, oh, okay.
That's why I had to skip, because I was like picturing Cookie Monster eating this spit-covered cookie, and I couldn't.
Yeah, to be fair, it also ends in one of those ways where I'm like, okay, Cookie Monster's trying to kidnap a kid now.
Oh, yeah, I heard that part when he says, I'll take you home and lick the cookie off your face. Don't say that.
And I think he also says, like, come home with me. I have a closet full of cookies. And just like, nope. Don't kidnap a baby. Stop it, Cookie Monster.
This episode also features probably the only time that something ejaculates on Sesame Street, which we have seen before in that frog cartoon. Yeah,
the Weirder Frogs Come From cartoon, which the first time we saw it, were shocked by them showing graphically where frogs come from. But obviously this episode is all about babies, so we get to see it again.
So ejaculation's apropos.
Yeah, Kermit skipped that part of his story.
Yeah, he did.
He's like, I was an egg. Don't ask any questions beforehand. We see the hot lizard that Sam has a crush on, singing above it all. Very 80s.
Sally Cruikshanks is the animator, and she's a famous animator. But yeah, she draws some sexy lizards, in my opinion.
My favorite part of like the most telling 80s moment in this is when the lizard says something about like these dudes in a boat, and below the dudes there was a whale.
I also like Gina, who will say stuff like radical and tubular. A little bit of a Bart Simpson thing going on with Gina.
Oscar eventually returns to Sesame Street. He's in his trash can when all the fellas on the street notice this. They go over to say, hey, did she have the baby? And he's like, you know what? I'm not going to be helpful anymore. I ain't telling.
And I think he almost gets his ass kicked.
Gordon, especially. Like, David gets mad.
Yeah.
And Gordon calms him down. And then Gordon gets even madder than David. And Bob steps in to be like, whoa, guys, calm down. I know how to reason with Oscar. And he convinces Oscar that, you know what? You've already done it. This is the grouchiest thing you've ever done in your life, is not tell us the status of Maria. And he's like, oh, well, that's great. I'm going to keep it up, though, because you said that. I'm going to keep doing it. And so the guys head to the hospital to find out for themselves.
But Bob like reaches down the trash can to like try to get Oscar. I think they're gonna like throw him on the ground.
They would have beat him up.
I think they were gonna kick him. Yeah,
they thought about it. But yeah, they get to the hospital. Louise tells everyone it's a girl, and they finally get to meet baby Gabriella. After we cut away quickly for a Joe Raposo sings "There's a Bird on Me" song.
Why?
Which is great. I love it.
He doesn't have a song about a baby? He probably's got a song about a baby.
Probably, but why not sing "There's a Bird on Me" when you can sing "There's a Bird on Me"? And in the room, Maria has a surprising amount of energy for a woman who just went through labor.
Yeah. It was a moving experience to her.
Yeah, she talks about how the baby came out of her, and Big Bird gets very confused, looking around for where this baby could possibly be if it just
Don't
came
worry
out of
about it,
her.
bro. Don't worry about
Yeah, Luis is like, trust me, I saw it. It came out of her.
it.
Gabriella is brought in by one of the nurses.
Do we
And you'd
see this
think-
child as like grow up?
Oh yeah, I believe
Okay.
so.
Okay.
I think they probably have different actresses
Sure.
play her through the years. But this is actually a little boy in this very first appearance. This is Dick Maitland, who was the sound effects Foley artist on Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm.
This is his son, which I'm guessing they just had a baby around that they could use. But yeah, they'll have some other babies, I think, in the following season. And then we'll cast somebody actually named Gabriella for a few seasons.
Oh,
And
she
then,
works at Hooper's.
Yeah, eventually they land on an actress called Desiree Casado, who will play Gabby for a bunch of years, I believe. And you'd think, here's the baby, everyone's here, it's very sweet, this must be the end of the episode. But no, for some reason, we got to check in on how the Count's date is going with Susan Sarandon.
He's cheating on his wife or whatever with Susan Sarandon.
They go out of their way to say this is not a date multiple times. They're just like, what a fun, delightful evening we're having.
Yeah.
Without saying, what a good date.
Susan Sarandon knows what's going on, though.
Oh, yeah. And she's kind of into it because they were in a car that broke down with some Rocky Horror Picture Show inspired thing here.
Mm-hmm.
They're walking up to a creepy castle. It's raining. And she knocks on the door. The Count counts 3 knocks and is like, oh, 3 knocks is not enough.
I would say the Count is really into it and that he orchestrated this whole situation so that he could count Susan Sarandon's knocks and get off on it.
You're right. You're right is the thing. Is I want to disagree, but he obviously orchestrated this because he knows where they're at. He does over 20 knocks and she's like, hey, maybe we should stop. Nobody's home. And he's like, yeah, no one's at home. I'm here. I can't be in there. This is my house.
That's a bit on Susan Sarandon because they are at a giant castle with a big bat on the door.
It has a bat.
She is on a date with a vampire.
So yeah, but this doesn't scare her off. She's like, fine, unlock the door. We'll go inside. So successful date.
Yeah, good for the Count. I like the Count had a good year this year from what we saw. I like the Count.
Mm-hmm. I think again, this is probably more of like using Jerry instead of Jim and Frank.
Yeah, and the Count, the Count's getting some action too.
Yeah,
the Count fucks for sure.
I knew we'd get there. But the actual end of this episode is Luis and Oscar. Luis comes back to Sesame Street to tell Oscar the baby is here and it's a girl. And there's not even a joke here. He walks away and Oscar immediately pulls out a telephone to call Maria and say, hey, how is everything?
It's so sweet.
Yeah,
so
he tries to be
their
mean.
Relationship.
Yeah, he's like, congratulations. Forget I said that. How the baby? Yeah. I bet she's cute. Does she cry a lot? I hope so.
She knows, though. She knows.
Yeah. She can see through his mildewy
real.
veneer.
Yeah. They've been best friends for a long time.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah. She's the only person who can really get under his skin, I think.
But that does it for Sesame Street Season 20.
I liked this season. I think that was a good, I was invested in the storyline for sure.
Yeah, I think between the wedding last season and the baby this season, I'm sure other characters, if we watch all the episodes, we might feel like they're getting, the shaft a little bit of like, oh yeah, they aren't really talking about Gordon and Susan
Gordon
that much
and
anymore.
Susan, they had their season of having a baby too.
Whoa, I can't let us leave before we bring up the Bob and Linda conversation.
Oh, I forgot about that.
When they're all sitting at Hooper's waiting for the baby call, Telly is like, well, you know what? It's pretty soon Bob and Linda are going to get married and have a baby. And they're both like, whoa, none of that is happening.
Oh, yeah. What is going on with those two? Why do they keep bringing it up?
Yeah, I don't know why they keep bringing it up. Because as we've talked about in the past, it seemed like Bob in real life was the one who was against it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why they keep inserting it into the show unless maybe people were asking too much. But this feels worse.
Well, then stop pairing up Bob and Linda.
Yes, just break them up.
I like that. I like when Telly's like, "Thank goodness," and Bob is like, "What do you mean, thank goodness?"
Yeah, I felt like they were going to get a little too into that even more. It's going to become even more awkward as Bob
Yeah.
questions like, Why do you think I like Linda, huh? Why do you think we're going to get married? I don't like her. I like my real human wife outside of the show who's not an actress." Like, Bob, stop it. You're breaking the show.
Yeah, Linda's way. I've said this before. I'm positive Linda's way too good for Bob. Come on.
I agree. Out of his league. He'd be lucky to marry and have kids with Linda.
That's right.
But yeah, this is not the last we will be talking about Sesame Street in the next few episodes, because we've got Big Bird in Japan coming up pretty soon.
Yes.
And we're also going to be checking in on the Sesame Street 20 and Still Counting special that they put out. So we'll get to look back on Sesame Street some more.
Big Bird in Japan's something I definitely watched a lot as a kid because I remember my dad really liked it. I'm so curious.
You've referenced the Ohio moments before, which in the year 2025 is even an extra layer of weird reference.
Oh yeah, because kids like Ohio.
Well, they don't like Ohio, which
they
is
don't
why they
like
say
it. Oh, I thought they liked it a lot.
No, Ohio means you're very uncool.
Huh. Okay. Well, I didn't know that.
So this is Big Bird calling everyone in Japan uncool over and over.
But I'm interested to see how much of it I remember.
I definitely have never seen it, so I'm excited to watch it. But before we get out of here, Sam, I got to ask real quick, did you enjoy any non-Muppet things this week?
Hey, I watched the first 3 episodes of Andor, which came out all in a big chunk, I believe.
Well, I have not watched them yet, so don't spoil anything, but how are you feeling about them?
I like it. I think it... I kind of remember having this feeling with the first season too, where at the first few I was like, what is this? And then the third one or whatever, like the end of the first story arc was really like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And with this, I feel like this season, I feel like they are making it seem like it's all fun and games, and then like every now and then something will happen, you'll be like, oh brother, things are gonna get pretty bad, I think. But it's great. I mean, it is the best Star Wars in all of, you know, it's one of the best Star Wars ever. It is like doing something with that universe that is so cool. And I don't actually have a problem with, like, I think it's fine that Boba Fett exists and isn't very good, like the Book of Boba Fett. Like, I think it's cool to have a universe where you can have like kind of a crummy like cowboy story, or like a...
I don't think that was their intention, though.
Well, it was not to be crummy, but it was to be a cowboy story.
Yeah, the problem, I think, is that it seems like the majority of Star Wars we're going to get is in that timeline era piece of the story, as opposed to more Andor, because we kind of know the beginning and end of Andor at this point.
Yeah. And even that is kind of like, it would be nice if you could move the story forward somehow, but they kind of blew that with the new movies, I guess, but or at least with the last one, in my opinion. But yeah, it's great. I thought, you know, it's just as good as it ever was. How about you?
That's a great question that I didn't think about until you asked me at this very moment.
You always ask this question, Matt. It's your question.
I think the most notable thing is I finished season 3 of Arrested Development last night. So the 3 original seasons of the show.
And what are you going to do next? Are you going to keep watching the new one?
Yeah, because like I said before, I've never seen the recut season 4, which I've heard is at least a little better. And I've never seen season 5 at all because I didn't know it existed until about 2 weeks ago. So I'll give it a shot. But there's definitely there's a storyline in season 3 that I absolutely hate, which is the Wee Britain Charlize Theron Rita storyline.
Right.
Where there's unfortunately liberal use of the R word on Arrested Development. And it's 6 episodes of the last season that's 13 episodes. So it's like half the season.
Yeah. It was a less enlightened time.
Well, then we got to let you know what we're watching next time. And next time we'll be wrapping up the year of 1988, which means we will have a whole grab bag of things like we did this time. But it'll be Crunchy Stars commercials and Muppet Babies live shows. And of course, the You're As Funny as Fozzie Bear VHS tape. So we'll have a whole big list of random things to check out.
I feel like we've heard a lot about the You're As Funny as Fozzie Bear. I have high expectations for that for some reason.
It does seem to be the one that people have the best memories of out of those VHS tapes. So we got to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast, and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Go to Kermitment.com for all your commitment needs. And don't forget to rate and review this podcast wherever you can do that. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so at CommitmentPod or at Kermitment.com on Blue Sky. And you can always follow me at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.